Welcome, eerie explorers, to another haunting journey into the unknown. If you've ever wondered where the spirits of the past still linger, where the dead walk and whisper under the cover of moonlight, then tonight, you're in for a treat or perhaps more of a fright. Grab a blanket, dim the lights, and let's venture into one of the most haunted places on Earth, New Jersey. Yes, you heard that right. Beneath the fog and over the crumbling gravestones lies a story older than time itself. Tonight, we explore the 25 most haunted cemeteries in New Jersey. From restless souls to sinister legends, these sacred grounds have much more than history. They have secrets, and we're about to uncover them. The Voorhees Cemetery, located in the quiet town of Voorhees, New Jersey, holds an eerie reputation among locals and visitors alike. While it may seem like a peaceful resting place on the surface, the cemetery has earned its place in the annals of local legend, due to the strange occurrences that seem to be a part of its very existence. For years, people have whispered of restless spirits roaming the grounds, and many claim to have witnessed paranormal activity that they can't easily explain. The cemetery is small, often overlooked, and sits quietly amid the trees. Its weathered gravestones, some of which date back centuries, tell the stories of those who once lived in this peaceful town. However, it is not the age of the cemetery or its history that draws attention. Rather, it is the whispers of the past that linger long after the last mourner has left. Local legend claims that the spirits of those who died too young, especially children, still wander the grounds, unable to find peace. It is said that these souls never had the chance to live out their full lives, and for that reason, they are bound to the cemetery, lingering in the spaces between life and death. As these restless spirits walk the earth, they are said to be looking for something they never had a chance to be alive, to experience the world, to grow old. It's not just the tales passed down from local families that make the Voorhees Cemetery an unsettling place. Numerous ghost hunters and paranormal investigators have visited the cemetery over the years, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. Many have walked away with unsettling stories and experiences, some of which they can't explain away as tricks of the mind. One of the most commonly reported occurrences is the sound of faint whispers. These voices are often described as soft and unintelligible, as if coming from far off in the distance or from just behind you. Some say they can hear the whispers even when there's no one else around. These eerie sounds seem to get louder as night falls, making the cemetery feel less like a place of rest and more like a place of unrest. Visitors who have spent time in the cemetery have noted that the whispers seem to shift and change depending on where they are on the grounds. One moment, it might sound like a child calling out for help, and the next, it could be a voice pleading for someone to remember them. But it's not just the voices that make the cemetery eerie. The shadowy figures that seem to watch you. There have been numerous reports of visitors catching glimpses of shapes moving between the gravestones. These figures often appear just at the edge of one's vision, as if standing in the background, watching silently. When a visitor turns to look directly at them, the figures are gone, leaving only an unsettling feeling in their wake. It is especially on foggy nights that the cemetery's ghostly activity seems to intensify. The thick, swirling mist clings to the ground and often obscures the gravestones, making the cemetery feel even more isolated and mysterious. The fog is said to have a certain weight to it, as if the air itself is heavy with the presence of spirits. On these nights, the faint sound of footsteps can be heard behind visitors, though no one is there. These footsteps are described as soft but deliberate, as if someone is following closely behind. It's a sound that makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Yet when you turn around, there is nothing but the fog and the gravestones, all standing in silent testimony to the lives once lived there. The footsteps are not the only thing that makes people feel followed. Many visitors have described a feeling of being watched while in the cemetery. This sense of being observed can be overwhelming, especially in the quiet moments when the cemetery seems to hold its breath. The feeling is said to be most intense when standing near certain gravestones, often those belonging to children or young adults. It's as if these spirits, still tethered to the land of the living, are longing to be seen, to be acknowledged, or perhaps to be remembered. Despite the heavy atmosphere and the reports of unsettling encounters, the Voorhees Cemetery remains a quiet and peaceful place during the day, with its simple gravestones standing as a reminder of lives long gone. The cemetery doesn't attract much attention, and most passers-by wouldn't give it a second thought, even though it is shrouded in a veil of strange occurrences that seem to grow stronger as the sun sets. Some locals refuse to visit the cemetery at night, unwilling to take the risk of encountering whatever spirits are still wandering the grounds. Others, however, seem drawn to the cemetery's dark reputation. For those who are brave enough, a trip to Voorhees Cemetery is said to be a journey into the unknown, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead seem a little thinner than usual. While the true nature of the hauntings at Voorhees Cemetery remains a mystery, the stories persist. Is it the spirits of those who left the world too soon, still roaming the earth, unable to move on? Or is it simply the power of legend, drawing the restless to the cemetery and making them feel watched, followed, and haunted by the past? Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, there is something undeniably chilling about the Voorhees Cemetery, a place where the echoes of the past seem to linger just beneath the surface, ready to make their presence known when the fog rolls in and the whispers grow louder. For some, it's a place to avoid. For others, it's a place to explore, hoping to uncover the secrets that the spirits of Voorhees have yet to reveal. But one thing is for sure, this cemetery, with its ghostly figures, whispered voices, and eerie footsteps, will always remain one of New Jersey's most haunted locations. The Old Presbyterian Cemetery in Newark, New Jersey, is a place shrouded in mystery and heavy with history. Situated atop one of the state's oldest burial grounds, this cemetery has witnessed centuries of history unfold. With roots stretching back to the 1700s, the cemetery is home to some of Newark's earliest settlers. However, it is not just the age of the cemetery that draws attention. There is something deeply unsettling about the place, something that has drawn paranormal investigators and curious visitors for generations. One of the most chilling aspects of the Old Presbyterian Cemetery is the strange and often unexplained occurrences that seem to haunt the area. People have long reported experiencing disembodied voices echoing through the air as they walk between the tombstones. These voices, some say, seem to come from nowhere, soft whispers that carry on the breeze but never seem to have a clear source. For those who are alone, the sensation is eerie and unsettling, as if the voices are speaking directly to them from the past. The voices are not the only phenomenon reported at the cemetery. Numerous visitors have described seeing spectral figures wandering between the graves. These apparitions are often seen out of the corner of one's eye, figures that seem to be walking slowly among the tombstones, always just beyond the reach of the eye. When looked at directly, the figures vanish into thin air, leaving only the lingering sense of someone or something watching from the shadows. Many people claim that the spectral figures take on various forms. Some are said to be figures of men and women, dressed in the clothing of centuries past. Others report seeing children, their ghostly forms fading in and out of existence as they walk among the older, weathered headstones. These sightings are not limited to just one area of the cemetery. The figures seem to appear at random, moving through the rows of graves, as if they are still tied to the land, unable to leave. Perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the cemetery is the deep sense of sorrow that many visitors report feeling as they wander the grounds. There is something about the place that feels particularly heavy, a feeling of grief and loss that hangs in the air. For some, it is almost overwhelming, as if the cemetery itself is alive with the emotions of the dead. The sense of sadness seems to intensify during the evening hours, when the sun sets and the shadows grow long. The cemetery's age plays a significant role in its eerie reputation. With so many generations of Newark's earliest citizens buried in the ground, the land itself has become saturated with the stories and memories of the past. Some believe that the spirits of these early settlers are still trapped in the cemetery, unable to move on. There are those who argue that the physical proximity to the tombstones, the constant reminder of death and loss, has kept the spirits of these long-dead souls tethered to the land, unable to find peace. Historically, the old Presbyterian cemetery has served as a final resting place for some of the city's most prominent figures. Politicians, church leaders, and well-known citizens from the 1700s and 1800s are buried there. Their names etched in stone, now weathered and worn by time. Over the years, the cemetery has seen its fair share of tragedies. Throughout the centuries, families have grieved here, and wars have left their mark. The cemetery is a silent witness to the rise and fall of generations. And this deep connection to Newark's history is perhaps what has made it such a hotspot for paranormal activity. Some of the most haunting reports come from those who have ventured into the cemetery at night. As the darkness falls, the cemetery takes on an entirely different character. One that feels alive, with an energy that seems almost palpable. The air becomes thick with silence, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant sound of a passing car. But, for those who are paying close attention, there are other sounds that sometimes drift through the night's soft whispers. The creaking of old wooden gates, and footsteps that echo on the cobblestone paths. One of the more commonly reported paranormal experiences is the feeling of being followed. Visitors, particularly those who venture into the cemetery late at night, often claim that they feel an invisible presence trailing just behind them. Some even say they can hear footsteps echoing in their ears, but when they turn around, no one is there. This unsettling sensation of being watched, followed by unseen eyes, is one of the most chilling aspects of the cemetery's haunted reputation. It is not just the figures and voices that make the cemetery such an unsettling place. It is the overall atmosphere that lingers in the air. There is a sense of quiet reverence for the dead, but also a lingering sadness that seems to pervade the very air around the cemetery. Even on sunny days, the cemetery can feel heavy, as though the stories of the past are pressing in on the present. For many, a visit to the old Presbyterian cemetery is an opportunity to connect with history and to pay their respects to those who came before. But for others, it's a place of dark curiosity, where the veil between the living and the dead feels thinner than in most other places. While some may visit the cemetery seeking answers, many leave with more questions than they arrived with. What is it about this place that causes the spirits of the past to linger so strongly? And why does it seem that, for those who visit, the cemetery seems to hold a strange, almost magnetic power over them? St. James Cemetery in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, is known for its strikingly beautiful architecture and peaceful, serene surroundings. With its towering trees, well-kept pathways, and ornate tombstones, it might seem like an ideal place for quiet reflection or a peaceful stroll. But beneath this peaceful exterior lies a darker, more unsettling history. Those who have spent time near the cemetery late at night, or who are brave enough to venture in after dark, whisper of strange occurrences and eerie happenings that seem to defy explanation. One of the most famous tales associated with St. James Cemetery is that of the spirit of its founder, who is said to still haunt the grounds where he helped to establish the cemetery many years ago. According to local legend, the founder, a well-known figure in the community, was dedicated to his work in helping to create a peaceful resting place for the people of Basking Ridge. But it seems that his own spirit could not find peace. Some believe that after his death, his restless soul lingered behind, unwilling to leave the cemetery he had worked so hard to build. Over the years, countless visitors have reported seeing the figure of an older man, dressed in period clothing, walking solemnly between the tombstones at night. Witnesses claim that the man appears at random, pacing the cemetery grounds as if he is still overseeing his work, still ensuring that everything is in its proper place. This apparition is particularly common on foggy evenings when the air is thick with mist and the world feels suspended in time. Those who have witnessed the ghost of the founder say he moves quietly and purposefully, his face a somber expression, as if he is deeply lost in thought. Some visitors to the cemetery claim to have heard his footsteps, echoing on the old cobblestone paths, long after the last sound of living feet has faded. Others say they have heard the soft murmur of what sounds like a man talking to himself, but when they look around, no one is there. And though the founder's ghost is the most frequently reported apparition, there are other strange occurrences that have added to the cemetery's eerie reputation. In addition to the founder's ghost, many people have reported hearing strange, disembodied voices echoing in the stillness of the cemetery's quiet night air. Sometimes, these voices seem to be whispering from the direction of one of the old graves, or even from within the thick stand of trees at the edge of the grounds. The voices are faint, almost imperceptible at first, but as you listen closely, they become clearer. They sound like murmurs, as if the dead are speaking to each other, or perhaps to the living. Some claim the whispers are accompanied by the faint scent of incense or flowers, adding an unsettling layer to the experience. One particularly unsettling report involves a visitor who claimed to have seen the ghostly figure of the cemetery's founder standing by the gates, staring out into the darkness as if waiting for someone. When the visitor approached him, they said that the figure turned slowly, as though sensing the presence of the living, and just as quickly as he appeared, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving the visitor standing alone in the dark, heart racing. Others who have encountered the founder's ghost say he never acknowledges anyone or interacts with them in any way. Instead, he seems to be forever lost in his own thoughts, wandering the cemetery grounds as if reliving some moment from the past. The eerie atmosphere around St. James Cemetery has also led to several stories of unexplained occurrences by those walking along the edge of the cemetery at night. One such story involves a local man who, while passing by the cemetery on a moonlit night, reported hearing the sound of faint footsteps behind him. Thinking it was simply another person walking, he quickened his pace, only to realize that the footsteps kept getting closer and closer. He stopped and turned around, but to his surprise, no one was there. Just as he was about to continue walking, the footsteps resumed, but this time, they seemed to come from just beyond the cemetery gates. Some say this is the restless energy of the cemetery's past, a place where the line between the living and the dead is thinner than most other places. The spirits that linger here seem trapped between worlds, caught in a place where they must forever walk, observing the living but unable to fully cross over. It is said that the founder, perhaps more than the others, has an especially strong attachment to the land he helped shape. The cemetery's connection to its founder's ghost also extends to the way people describe the overall energy of the place. Those who have walked through St. James Cemetery on their own often describe feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched, a sensation that intensifies as the sun sets and the darkness deepens. Some describe the feeling as one of curiosity, as though the spirits of the cemetery are observing the living, waiting to see if the living will acknowledge their presence. Others describe it as a feeling of unease, as though the spirits are attempting to communicate, but are forever unable to do so. It is the combination of this eerie atmosphere, the sightings of the founder's ghost, and the mysterious whispers that have earned St. James Cemetery a place on the list of haunted locations in New Jersey. The cemetery may appear to be a peaceful and tranquil place by day, but as night falls, the stories of restless spirits come to life, leaving those who venture into its grounds with more questions than answers. St. James Cemetery stands as a testament to the past, a place where the living and the dead meet at the crossroads of history and the supernatural. For those who are brave enough to visit after dark, the quiet beauty of the cemetery becomes a backdrop to something far more chilling, an eternal restlessness that refuses to be laid to rest. Whether it's the ghost of the cemetery's founder, or the lingering spirits of those long past, one thing is certain. St. James Cemetery is not as quiet as it may seem. Tucked away in a secluded area, far from the bustle of city life, Hillside Cemetery in Hillside, New Jersey, has long been regarded as one of the most unnerving burial grounds in the region. This cemetery is not just known for its remote location and peaceful surroundings, but also for the chilling rumors that seem to swirl around it, rumors of witchcraft, occult rituals, and strange happenings that are said to occur, particularly around Halloween. Those who have dared to visit after dark often leave with more questions than answers. And it's no wonder the cemetery has gained a reputation as one of the most haunted places in the area. Local folklore surrounding Hillside Cemetery is steeped in mystery and dark history. It's believed that, many years ago, the cemetery became a site of occult activity. Some claim that the land on which the cemetery was built had long been used by witches and practitioners of dark arts for rituals, and that the spirits of those who were involved in these occult practices still haunt the area. There are also stories about secret societies meeting in the shadows, performing ancient rites under the cover of night, far away from prying eyes. While these claims have never been fully proven, they have certainly fueled the eerie atmosphere that surrounds the cemetery today. Many who have ventured to the cemetery at night describe a feeling of discomfort. As soon as they arrive, the air seems thick, as though charged with an unseen energy. The further you venture into the cemetery, the stronger the sensation becomes. Some visitors say they've felt as though they were being watched, while others describe an overwhelming sense of dread, as though something or someone was lurking just out of sight. It is in this atmosphere that the strange occurrences seem to manifest most frequently. One of the most persistent and unsettling tales from Hillside Cemetery revolves around the infamous witch's tree. Legend has it that a centuries-old tree stands in the middle of the cemetery, its twisted, gnarled branches reaching out like claws. It is said that this tree was once the site of many dark rituals, performed by those who sought to commune with the dead or gain powers from the supernatural. People who have visited the cemetery claim to have seen strange symbols carved into the tree's bark, symbols that seem to shift or change when viewed from different angles. Some have even reported hearing whispers emanating from the tree, soft murmurs that sound like voices speaking in an ancient, forgotten language. The most haunting incidents, however, occur around Halloween night. On this night, when the veil between the living and the dead is thought to be thinnest, the cemetery seems to come alive with eerie energy. People who have visited during this time often speak of strange lights hovering over the gravestones, lights that appear to move on their own accord, drifting silently through the cemetery like will-o'-the-wisps. Others have reported seeing figures in the distance, shadowy silhouettes that seem to flit in and out of sight, never fully revealing themselves. But it's not just lights and shadows that make Halloween at Hillside Cemetery so unnerving. There are countless stories of visitors hearing strange sounds, footsteps following them as they walk along the winding paths, whispers in the wind, and the unmistakable feeling that something is behind them, watching, waiting. Some people have claimed to hear the sound of chanting or chanting-like voices coming from within the cemetery's depths, as though some ancient ritual were still being performed, even in the modern age. Perhaps the most chilling reports come from those who have claimed to encounter a figure known as the Witch of Hillside. According to local lore, the figure is the spirit of a woman who once lived in the area, a woman believed to have been involved in the occult and witchcraft. It's said that she was buried in the cemetery after her death, but her spirit never left. Visitors have reported seeing a tall, thin figure in a long, dark cloak, walking silently between the graves at night. The woman is often seen near the witch's tree, her face hidden beneath a hood, her presence felt more than seen. Those who have come close to her say that the air grows cold, their breath coming out in visible clouds, even on the warmest of nights. As unnerving as the tales of ghostly figures and strange phenomena may be, some visitors to the cemetery have reported hearing sounds that suggest something even darker. A number of people claim to have heard the unmistakable sound of chanting or ritualistic drumming coming from the farthest corners of the cemetery. The sounds seem to move through the air in eerie waves, as though they are being carried by an invisible force. Those who have followed the sounds to their source have reported feeling an overwhelming sense of fear, as if they had stumbled upon something they were not meant to see. Despite the rumors and stories surrounding Hillside Cemetery, it has remained a popular location for those interested in the paranormal. Paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, and thrill seekers alike have visited the cemetery in an attempt to uncover the truth behind the strange occurrences. Some have brought cameras and recording devices, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. While there is no definitive proof that any of the legends are true, many visitors still report having unsettling experiences, and some even claim to have captured inexplicable phenomena on film: flickering lights, shadowy figures, and unidentifiable sounds that seem to come from nowhere. What makes Hillside Cemetery so unnerving is the combination of its history, its remote location, and the stories that have been passed down through generations. Whether or not one believes in the supernatural, it's hard to deny that the cemetery holds an aura of mystery and unease. Whether it's the remnants of occult practices from years gone by or something far more sinister, there's no doubt that Hillside Cemetery is a place where the unknown still lingers. For those brave enough to visit, the stories of witches, ghosts, and strange happenings are sure to stay with them long after they leave, as haunting as the cemetery itself. Nestled in the heart of Mount Holly, New Jersey, the Mount Holly Cemetery stands as a haunting relic of the past. Its overgrown vegetation and crumbling gravestones give it an air of mystery and melancholy. But it's the chilling legends surrounding the cemetery that have drawn the attention of paranormal enthusiasts, history buffs, and thrill seekers alike. Often considered one of the most haunted places in New Jersey, the cemetery has become famous for its restless spirits, particularly those of soldiers and civilians from the American Revolution. These spectral figures are said to wander the grounds, as if lost in time, forever trapped in the world between the living and the dead. Mount Holly Cemetery's eerie reputation has its roots in the cemetery's rich and tumultuous history. Founded in 1776, it's one of the oldest burial sites in the area, and its graves hold the remains of many prominent local figures, as well as ordinary men and women who lived through some of the most significant events in American history. During the American Revolution, Mount Holly was a key location in the region, and it's believed that many soldiers who fought in the war were buried in the cemetery, some of them in unmarked graves. Witnesses who have visited the cemetery, particularly those who have ventured there at night, claim to have seen the spirits of soldiers from the Revolutionary War. These apparitions are often described as figures in tattered uniforms, their faces somber and lost, walking among the gravestones as if searching for something. Some have even reported hearing the faint sound of boots crunching on the gravel paths, or the distant echo of musket fire, as if the battles of the past are still being fought in the quiet shadows of the cemetery. In some accounts, the spirits of the soldiers appear to be engaged in quiet conversations with one another, perhaps discussing strategies or exchanging stories of the war. Other times, the figures are seen standing in formation, their presence unsettling as they seem to stare blankly ahead, lost in an eternal moment of time. The unsettling part, however, is that these apparitions are often seen moving between the gravestones, as if trapped in a loop, forever reliving their final moments on Earth. It's as if the soldiers, who once fought so fiercely for their cause, cannot find peace in death. Aside from the soldiers, the cemetery is also believed to be haunted by the spirits of ordinary civilians, many of whom perished during the tumultuous times of the Revolution. Some visitors have described seeing ghostly figures of women and children, their faces mournful, lingering by the old gravestones. These spirits are often seen near the overgrown sections of the cemetery, where the vegetation has nearly swallowed up the worn-down markers. Some claim to have seen these figures kneeling by the graves of their loved ones, as if paying respects or seeking closure that they never found in life. One of the most chilling encounters in Mount Holly Cemetery is the story of a young boy who was said to haunt the grounds. Legend has it that the boy died during the Revolutionary War, a victim of the illness that spread through the troops and civilians alike. His spirit is said to appear near the old chapel, sometimes accompanied by the sound of faint laughter, as if trying to play. However, as those who have encountered him can attest, there is no joy in his presence. Instead, there is an overwhelming sense of sorrow and abandonment, as though the child was never allowed to grow up, and his spirit remains trapped in a place he cannot escape. The spirits of Mount Holly Cemetery are not limited to soldiers and civilians from the Revolutionary War. Over the years, numerous accounts have emerged of visitors experiencing unexplainable occurrences that seem to tie the cemetery to other periods in history. Some have heard the soft, melodic sounds of a woman singing an old lullaby, while others have encountered a shadowy figure that moves silently through the gravestones, too fast to identify, but always accompanied by an eerie chill. While these stories have added to the cemetery's haunted reputation, there's another phenomenon that is perhaps even more chilling: the sensation of being watched. Many visitors who have ventured into the cemetery, especially those who go after dark, report a sense of being followed by unseen eyes. Some even claim to feel a sudden drop in temperature, as though a cold breath has swept over them, despite the otherwise warm night air. These sensations often come with an intense feeling of dread, as though the spirits of the cemetery are trying to communicate, but in a way that leaves visitors feeling uneasy and disturbed. Some say the spirits of Mount Holly Cemetery are not the only things that linger in the cemetery. Ghost hunters and paranormal investigators have long claimed that the cemetery is home to strange energy fluctuations, making it an ideal spot for capturing evidence of the supernatural. Unexplained lights have been reported, sometimes appearing in the distance and floating above the gravestones, as if searching for something. Some investigators have even claimed to have recorded strange electronic voice phenomena, EVP, in the area, with faint voices heard during their sessions, though no one is ever visible when the voices are captured. Interestingly, Mount Holly Cemetery is not only haunted by spirits from the past, it's also become a place of strange, otherworldly activity. Some visitors have claimed to have seen the landscape around the cemetery shift and change, with paths that suddenly lead to unmarked graves or sections of the cemetery that were previously untouched. Some report a sense of time distortion, where hours seem to pass in mere minutes, or where they lose track of time altogether. These reports add to the theory that the cemetery is a kind of time warp, where the past and present are inexplicably linked. Whether or not these supernatural occurrences are linked to the ghosts of soldiers and civilians from the American Revolution, one thing is certain: Mount Holly Cemetery has earned its place as one of New Jersey's most haunted locations. Its tragic history, combined with the eerie reports of ghostly apparitions, makes it a place where the veil between the living and the dead seems incredibly thin. For those brave enough to venture into its grounds, the question remains: are the spirits of Mount Holly Cemetery simply lost in time, or are they trying to communicate something from beyond the grave? Whatever the answer may be, Mount Holly remains a place where the echoes of the past still linger, haunting those who dare to visit. Laurel Hill Cemetery, located just across the border in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, has long been considered one of the most hauntingly beautiful cemeteries in the region. Its serene, picturesque landscape, lined with centuries-old trees, intricate tombstones, and scenic views of the Schuylkill River, has a calming appearance. But beneath this tranquil facade lies a dark, eerie history, with many claiming that the spirits of the dead still linger in the shadows of the cemetery's winding paths. Founded in 1836, Laurel Hill Cemetery was designed as a rural cemetery, an elegant burial ground that doubled as a peaceful park where visitors could escape the noise of the city and spend time reflecting among nature. The cemetery quickly became the final resting place of some of Philadelphia's wealthiest and most influential citizens, including prominent business leaders, artists, politicians, and military figures. Today, it is home to more than 33,000 graves and is considered a National Historic Landmark. However, with its storied history and sprawling, old-world charm, it's not only the past residents of Laurel Hill who leave a lasting impression. Visitors often find themselves feeling unnerved by a lingering presence they can't quite explain. The haunting atmosphere of Laurel Hill Cemetery is difficult to describe. It's not just the eerie silence of the grounds, nor the cool breeze that sweeps through the trees in the late afternoon. For many, it's the overwhelming sense that someone or something is watching them. Some have reported a chilling feeling of being followed as they wander among the graves. Others claim to have felt cold spots, sudden drops in temperature, or the sensation of being touched by invisible hands. A particularly unsettling aspect of Laurel Hill Cemetery is the recurring reports of shadowy figures that seem to flicker in and out of existence. These apparitions are often seen moving between the tombstones, walking along the well-worn paths, and disappearing just as quickly as they appear. Some visitors have described seeing figures dressed in clothing from the 19th century, as though the spirits are still caught in the time period when they were laid to rest. While some believe these figures are merely the result of the cemetery's long history, others are convinced that the souls of the deceased have never truly left. There are also numerous accounts of strange, inexplicable sounds echoing through the cemetery. Some claim to hear soft whispers drifting on the breeze, while others say they've heard the faint footsteps of someone walking behind them, only to turn around and find no one there. The sound of a child's laughter is also occasionally reported, especially around the old mausoleums and family crypts that dot the cemetery. In some instances, people have claimed to hear soft crying or the distinct sound of someone calling out their name from an empty part of the grounds. These eerie noises, coupled with the sense of being watched, contribute to the cemetery's unnerving atmosphere. Despite the graveyard's quiet, peaceful surroundings, there is one particular location within Laurel Hills Cemetery that seems to stand out as the epicenter of these supernatural occurrences: the area surrounding the tomb of the unknown soldier. This solemn monument is dedicated to soldiers who died in the American Civil War, their names and identities lost to time. Visitors often describe feeling a deep sadness when standing near the tomb. Some say they've seen the figure of a man in an old military uniform, standing by the monument, silently watching them. Others report hearing the soft rustle of a uniform or the gentle tapping of boots on the hard ground, only to turn around and find no one there. Perhaps one of the most well-known legends surrounding Laurel Hills Cemetery involves the ghost of a young woman named the Lady in White. According to local folklore, she was the daughter of a wealthy family who had once lived in the area. She died tragically at a young age, and her spirit is said to roam the cemetery near her family's grave. Those who have encountered her describe seeing a glowing figure, dressed in a flowing white gown, moving gracefully between the tombstones. Witnesses often report an overwhelming sense of sorrow and longing when they see the Lady in White, and some claim to feel compelled to follow her, only to watch as she disappears into the night. Some visitors to Laurel Hills Cemetery have even reported encounters with the spirits of famous individuals buried there. One such figure is the ghost of Richard Allen, a prominent religious leader and founder of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. It's said that his spirit lingers near his grave, offering comfort to those who may feel lost or troubled. Other notable spirits include the ghost of the eccentric Philadelphia businesswoman, Elizabeth Stedman, whose mausoleum is one of the most elaborate in the cemetery. Legend has it that Elizabeth, who was deeply spiritual, may still be watching over the cemetery, ensuring that it remains protected from harm. One of the most unnerving aspects of Laurel Hill Cemetery is its unsettling beauty. The grounds are meticulously maintained, with lush gardens and winding walkways that guide visitors past elegant gravestones and ornate sculptures. The historical markers and memorials, many of which date back to the 19th century, only add to the cemetery's haunted allure. For some, this beauty masks a deeper, more ominous presence, the idea that the spirits of the departed are not merely resting, but are still active and engaged with the world of the living. There are even reports of people encountering strange lights, flickering in the distance, or floating near certain graves. These lights often appear to be lanterns or candle flames, but when investigators approach, they vanish into the darkness. Others claim to have seen flashes of light shooting across the cemetery, as if someone or something is moving too quickly for the eye to catch. It's these mysterious lights that continue to fascinate ghost hunters and paranormal enthusiasts, who flock to Laurel Hill Cemetery in hopes of capturing proof of the spirits that call it home. While Laurel Hill Cemetery has long been a place of fascination for those interested in the paranormal, it is also a historical landmark, drawing tourists from all walks of life who come to admire its beauty and learn about the lives of those buried there. But for those who stay long enough, there is an undeniable sense that Laurel Hill Cemetery is not just a resting place for the dead. It is a place where the past and present collide, and where the spirits of those who lived and died continue to linger, forever bound to the grounds they once walked. For many, the eerie energy of Laurel Hill Cemetery is part of its charm. It's a place where history, beauty, and the supernatural intersect, creating an atmosphere that is both serene and unsettling at the same time. Whether you visit to pay respects, learn about history, or catch a glimpse of the ghostly figures that are said to wander its grounds, there is no denying that Laurel Hill Cemetery is a place where the veil between the living and the dead seems particularly thin, leaving visitors to wonder just who or what might be watching from the shadows. St. Mary's Cemetery in South Amboy, New Jersey, is a quiet and somber place by day, its neatly maintained headstones and winding pathways offering a serene escape from the bustle of nearby streets. But as evening falls, and the fog rolls in from the nearby Raritan Bay, the atmosphere changes. Locals have long whispered that the cemetery is haunted, its grounds echoing with the sorrow of past tragedies. Central to the haunting tales is a devastating 19th-century fire, a calamity that claimed numerous lives and left an indelible mark on the community, mark that some say still lingers in the form of restless spirits wandering the cemetery. The story begins in the late 1800s, when South Amboy was a thriving coastal town with a close-knit population. One fateful night, a fire broke out in a large residential building near the waterfront. The flames spread quickly, fueled by the wooden structures common to the era. Panic and chaos ensued as families struggled to escape, and many perished in the inferno. Those who survived were left to mourn the loss of loved ones, and the tragedy became a defining moment for the town. The deceased were buried in St. Mary's Cemetery, some in unmarked graves, creating a final resting place that would later be steeped in sorrow and superstition. Since that time, visitors to St. Mary's Cemetery have reported numerous unsettling experiences, particularly near the section where the fire victims were laid to rest. Many have described hearing faint cries and the sound of frantic footsteps on the gravel paths, though no one else is present. Others have spoken of a chilling sensation, a coldness that seems to envelop them, even on warm summer nights, as if unseen hands are brushing against their shoulders. The eerie atmosphere has led some to believe that the spirits of those who perished in the fire never found peace, their souls still wandering the cemetery, searching for solace. One of the most commonly reported phenomena involves ghostly figures that appear near the oldest part of the cemetery. Witnesses often describe seeing shadowy silhouettes, sometimes of men, women, and even children, moving slowly between the graves. On certain nights, particularly when the fog is thick, these figures are said to be more visible, sometimes appearing to relive the moments leading up to the fire. Some have even claimed to see phantom flames flickering across the ground, as if the tragedy itself has been captured in a ghostly loop, replaying for anyone who dares to watch. Another chilling feature of St. Mary's Cemetery is the persistent sound of weeping. Visitors frequently report hearing the sorrowful cries of women, believed to be the widows or mothers who lost family members in the fire. The cries are often accompanied by the faint smell of smoke or burning wood, further reinforcing the connection to the 19th century tragedy. Some say that these spirits are drawn to the living, silently observing passersby and seeking recognition or comfort that they were denied in life. The mournful energy is so palpable that even those who visit during the day sometimes feel a heavy weight on their chest, as though the cemetery itself is saturated with grief. Among the most eerie accounts are sightings of children wandering the cemetery. Witnesses describe seeing small figures in old-fashioned clothing, running along the paths or playing near the gravestones, only to vanish when approached. These apparitions are said to be the spirits of children who perished in the fire, forever trapped between life and death. On several occasions, people have reported hearing the laughter of these children, joyful yet tinged with a deep sadness, echoing faintly among the trees. These ghostly encounters often leave a lasting impression, instilling a sense of awe and unease in equal measure. Paranormal investigators have taken a particular interest in St. Mary's Cemetery. Many have conducted overnight vigils and set up cameras and audio recording devices in hopes of capturing evidence of the supernatural. Some have reported strange lights appearing near the old graves, moving in unnatural ways or flickering in patterns that do not correspond to any natural source. Others have caught audio anomalies on recorders' whispers, faint cries, and even distinct footsteps that cannot be explained. Whether these phenomena are the lingering echoes of the fire or manifestations of restless spirits, they continue to fascinate both locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Visitors also speak of an overwhelming feeling of being watched, walking among the gravestones, particularly near the area associated with the fire victims. Many report glancing over their shoulders, convinced that they are not alone. Some even claim that the cemetery itself seems to shift subtly, paths appearing longer or narrower, shadows moving against the natural flow of light. These experiences contribute to the perception that St. Mary's Cemetery is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is unusually thin, allowing the past to bleed into the present. Despite its chilling reputation, St. Mary's Cemetery remains a place of historical significance. The cemetery holds the stories of the community, both tragic and honorable, and the legends that have grown over the years add a layer of mystique to its solemn grounds. For those brave enough to visit after dark, the cemetery offers an immersive experience of history, memory, and lingering spirits. Many leave with a heightened sense of reverence, tempered by an unmistakable awareness that they are not alone. Whether the apparitions are echoes of a tragic fire, restless souls of the departed, or the product of imagination, fueled by history and legend, St. Mary's Cemetery has earned its place as one of the most haunting locations in South Amboy. Its fog-laden paths, weathered headstones, and whispered stories remind visitors that even in death, the past refuses to rest quietly. For those who step onto its grounds, the cemetery offers a chilling, unforgettable encounter with a history that lingers, with spirits that have yet to move on. Blackwood Cemetery, nestled in the quiet town of Blackwood, New Jersey, is a place steeped in history and shadowed by chilling legends. By day, it appears serene, a collection of aged gravestones, worn paths, and overgrown patches of grass, framed by tall trees. Visitors might stroll through the cemetery, admiring its quiet beauty and the old monuments that mark the resting places of generations past. Yet, as dusk falls and the light wanes, the cemetery transforms into a place of unsettling mystery, where the living feel the presence of the dead watching from the shadows. The cemetery dates back to the 1800s and has long been the final resting place for local residents. Its oldest sections, filled with leaning stones and moss-covered markers, are the focal point of most paranormal activity. Many who visit the cemetery report an eerie sensation of being followed or observed, even when they are alone. Footsteps echo along the gravel paths, soft and deliberate, yet when visitors turn around, no one is there. These unexplained sounds often intensify at night, creating a feeling of unease that is difficult to shake. Some say that it is the restless spirits of those buried long ago, wandering the grounds in a liminal space between life and death. Sightings of ghostly figures are a frequent occurrence at Blackwood Cemetery. Witnesses describe pale silhouettes gliding between the gravestones, appearing and disappearing with little warning. Some of these apparitions resemble people in clothing from the 19th or early 20th century, suggesting that they may be spirits of the cemetery's earliest occupants. Others appear more like shadowy forms, moving unnaturally, as if defying the physical laws of the living world. Those who have encountered these figures often speak of a sudden chill in the air, a heaviness that settles over the body, and an overwhelming feeling of sorrow, as though the spirits are trapped by unresolved grief or unfinished business. The cemetery is particularly active during nights when the moon is full or when fog drifts through the grounds. On these nights, visitors frequently report seeing figures standing near certain graves, silently watching them pass. Some claim to witness entire groups of ghostly figures moving together, almost as if they are tending to the graves or reenacting moments from long ago. These fleeting glimpses leave a lasting impression, a reminder that the past can be ever-present and that some spirits refuse to rest quietly in their graves. Visitors also report hearing whispers and faint voices, often coming from areas where no one is present. Some describe these sounds as unintelligible murmurs, while others claim to hear names being called or soft cries of despair. The sounds seem to move through the cemetery, sometimes surrounding the visitor, then fading abruptly, leaving an echo of unease behind. Paranormal enthusiasts have documented some of these occurrences using audio equipment, capturing unexplained noises and faint sounds that seem to defy rational explanation, moving independently of the surrounding trees and tombstones. Some visitors speak of sudden, unexplained lights that appear near graves, vanishing when approached. These anomalies, combined with the whispered voices and ghostly figures, create a sense that the cemetery exists partially in another realm, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is tenuous and fragile. Despite its frightening reputation, Blackwood Cemetery continues to draw visitors, historians, locals, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Some come seeking a glimpse of the supernatural, while others are drawn by the rich history and stories embedded in its grounds. Regardless of their purpose, many leave with the same impression: a profound sense that the cemetery is more than just a resting place. It is a space where history lingers, where the sorrow and stories of the dead permeate the air, and where unseen eyes watch every step. For those brave enough to explore Blackwood Cemetery at night, the experience is both haunting and unforgettable. The combination of shadowy apparitions, mysterious sounds, and an overwhelming sense of presence creates an environment unlike any other. Visitors may feel watched, followed, or even silently guided through the old paths, leaving with an understanding that some spirits linger far longer than one might expect. The legends surrounding Blackwood Cemetery have persisted for generations, ensuring that its reputation as a haunted location continues to intrigue and terrify all who dare to enter its gates. Blackwood Cemetery is more than a historic site. It is a testament to the stories that refuse to fade, to the spirits that remain, and to the mysteries that lie just beyond the reach of the living. Whether one experiences footsteps on empty paths, shadowy figures among gravestones, or the inexplicable whisper of voices carried by the wind, the cemetery leaves an indelible mark on all who venture within. It is a place where the past lingers, the present feels uncertain, and the veil between the living and the dead is never entirely solid. Red Bank Cemetery, nestled in the heart of one of New Jersey's livelier towns, appears peaceful and well kept during the day. Its neatly lined gravestones, shaded pathways, and flowering shrubs create an inviting atmosphere for visitors paying respects or taking a quiet stroll. Yet, as night falls and the town's bustling streets grow quiet, the cemetery takes on an entirely different character. Local legend has it that Red Bank Cemetery is haunted, its most famous resident being the ghost of a young woman whose life ended violently and prematurely, her spirit forever roaming the grounds in search of peace. The story of the young woman dates back over a century. According to local folklore, she was murdered under mysterious circumstances, though the exact details have been lost to time. Some versions suggest a jealous suitor, others hint at a robbery gone wrong, but all agree on the tragic outcome. The young woman's life was cut short, and her body was laid to rest in Red Bank Cemetery. Since her death, numerous visitors have reported seeing her figure wandering the grounds after dark, usually dressed in white, with a spectral glow that sets her apart from the shadows. Witnesses consistently describe an unsettling experience when encountering her apparition. Many report feeling a sudden drop in temperature, as if the night air itself becomes icy, accompanied by an overwhelming sense of sadness or despair. Some claim to hear soft, mournful sobs echoing through the cemetery, while others feel a presence walking just behind them, though turning around reveals no one. The combination of these sensations, the cold, the sorrow, the sense of being followed, has led many to believe that the young woman's spirit is restless, trapped by the violent circumstances of her death. One particularly chilling aspect of the haunting involves sightings of the young woman at specific graves. Visitors have claimed that she sometimes stands near older headstones, almost as if drawn to the memories or spirits of others buried there. At times, she appears to glide silently along the cemetery paths, her form fading in and out of view. Some who have attempted to approach her report feeling an invisible barrier, a force preventing them from getting close. Others describe a sudden feeling of heaviness, as though the air around her grows dense with grief. These experiences suggest that the spirit is not only aware of the living, but may be trying to communicate, or perhaps warn, in her own haunting way. Red Bank Cemetery is particularly active on nights when the moon is full or when fog rolls in from the nearby river, lending an ethereal quality to the surroundings. It is during these nights that sightings are most frequent and often most vivid. Some witnesses have described the young woman standing near a particular oak tree, its gnarled branches casting long shadows that intertwine with her figure. When observed through the corner of one's eye, she seems almost like a living part of the landscape, yet when focused upon directly, she vanishes without a trace. This fleeting appearance has led many to believe that she exists somewhere between this world and the next, a spirit unable to move on entirely. Footsteps, whispers, and strange sounds are common reports from those brave enough to wander the cemetery late at night. Many describe walking along the paths and hearing footsteps behind them, quick and uneven, as though someone is running to catch up. Others report hearing faint voices, sometimes a call for help, sometimes a sigh of sadness echoing among the gravestones. These sounds often appear to come from nowhere, vanishing when investigated, leaving the listener questioning their own senses. Paranormal enthusiasts have long been drawn to Red Bank Cemetery to document these phenomena, with night vision cameras and audio equipment capturing fleeting glimpses of shadows and faint, inexplicable noises. Some visitors claim the young woman's ghost is protective rather than malevolent. There are stories of people feeling a gentle touch on their shoulder when lost or disoriented, or of shadows receding when she appears, as if guiding them safely along the paths. However, the protective aspects are subtle and often mixed with fear. Many who encounter her leave with a mix of awe and dread, feeling as though they have glimpsed something that is not meant for the living to see. Red Bank Cemetery's haunting has persisted through generations, drawing curiosity from locals, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. The cemetery itself is a historical site, containing graves dating back over a century, with weathered markers and ornate tombstones that speak to the rich, layered history of the town. It is this history, combined with the tragic story of the young woman, that has cemented the cemetery's reputation as a place where the past is never truly at rest. Despite its eerie reputation, Red Bank Cemetery remains accessible to the public during the day, allowing visitors to appreciate both its beauty and history. Yet as night falls, those who linger may encounter the spectral presence that has haunted the grounds for decades. The young woman in white, a victim of violence and tragedy, serves as a chilling reminder that some stories do not end with death. Her spirit, lingering in the shadows of Red Bank Cemetery, continues to captivate the imagination, offering an encounter with the supernatural that is both haunting and unforgettable. Whether seen from a distance, heard in the form of whispers, or felt as a chilling presence, the young woman of Red Bank Cemetery embodies the town's connection to its darker history. Visitors leave with an impression that is difficult to shake, the idea that some souls are not yet at rest, and that even in the most picturesque and serene settings, the past may still reach out, waiting to be acknowledged. For those who dare to explore the cemetery at night, the experience is one of quiet terror and undeniable fascination, a haunting encounter with a spirit forever tied to the grounds of Red Bank. Westfield Cemetery, located in the heart of New Jersey, is a place that exudes an unusual quiet during the day. Its well-tended gravestones, tree-lined paths, and neatly arranged plots create the impression of a peaceful resting place for the departed. Yet, beneath this serene exterior lies a history of strange and unexplainable events that have earned Westfield Cemetery a reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the area. For decades, locals and visitors alike have reported unsettling encounters that seem to suggest the presence of spirits who have yet to find peace. The cemetery dates back to the 1800s and has long been a burial ground for generations of Westfield residents. Its oldest sections, filled with weathered gravestones and leaning monuments, carry the weight of history, and it is in these areas that most paranormal activity has been reported. Over time, stories of shadowy figures, Strange noises and feelings of being watched have become intertwined with the cemetery's legacy, creating an atmosphere that is both fascinating and unnerving for those who enter its gates after dark. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Westfield Cemetery involves shadowy figures moving among the gravestones. Witnesses describe seeing dark silhouettes darting between the headstones, often appearing just beyond the edge of their vision. When they attempt to focus on these figures, the shadows seem to vanish, leaving nothing but empty paths and the quiet hum of night. Some people have claimed that these apparitions resemble people from the past, sometimes appearing in clothing from the 19th or early 20th century, while others appear more like formless shadows, moving in ways that defy human motion. These fleeting glimpses often leave visitors with a sense of unease that lingers long after they leave the cemetery. In addition to visual sightings, Westfield Cemetery is known for its auditory anomalies. Many visitors report hearing footsteps on gravel paths or soft whispers carried on the wind, even when the cemetery is completely empty. These sounds are often described as distant, yet clear, sometimes sounding as though someone is calling out or murmuring names that are impossible to recognize. On particularly still nights, the sounds seem to follow visitors, moving around them in ways that are impossible to track. This auditory phenomenon, combined with the visual sightings, creates an experience that feels intensely personal and immersive, as if the spirits are actively interacting with those who wander the grounds. Another unsettling aspect of Westfield Cemetery is the sudden and unexplained changes in temperature. Witnesses often describe encountering icy cold patches that appear without warning, even during warm summer nights. These cold spots are frequently accompanied by a heavy feeling in the air, as if the cemetery itself has grown denser with unseen energy. Some visitors report a sensation of being touched or brushed past by invisible hands, an experience that is both terrifying and inexplicably sad. Paranormal investigators suggest that these sensations are the lingering imprints of intense emotional energy, left behind by those who died with unresolved anguish or unfinished business. Several areas within the cemetery are considered particularly active. One of the most frequently mentioned spots is a cluster of older graves near the western edge, where several prominent Westfield families were buried. Witnesses claim that shadowy figures often congregate in this area, sometimes appearing to stand vigil over the gravestones. Others have seen lights flickering near the oldest tombstones, lights that cannot be attributed to any natural source or passing vehicle. On some nights, the cemetery paths seem to shift subtly, giving visitors the impression that they are not walking in straight lines, further enhancing the sense that something supernatural permeates the grounds. There are also stories of spectral encounters that go beyond fleeting shadows or unexplained sounds. Some witnesses describe seeing full-bodied apparitions standing silently near the graves, staring at passers-by with an intensity that is impossible to ignore. These spirits often remain for several moments before dissolving into the darkness, leaving an eerie impression on those who have seen them. A few visitors have even claimed that the spirits seem to acknowledge their presence, pausing or changing direction as if following or observing, creating a haunting sense of interaction between the living and the dead. Paranormal investigators and ghost enthusiasts have long been drawn to Westfield Cemetery for these very reasons. Many have spent entire nights conducting vigils, setting up cameras, and using audio recording devices to capture evidence of the unexplained. Over the years, investigators have reported capturing strange lights, fleeting shadows, and electronic voice phenomena that cannot be easily explained. Whether these occurrences are the result of restless spirits or other supernatural forces remains a matter of debate. But the consistent reports from witnesses over decades suggest that Westfield Cemetery is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is remarkably thin. Despite its haunted reputation, Westfield Cemetery remains a site of historical significance and reflection. Many visitors come during the day to appreciate its serene beauty, unaware of the eerie tales that surround it after nightfall. Yet for those who venture in after dark, the cemetery offers an intense, immersive experience of both history and the supernatural. The combination of old gravestones, whispering winds, and shadowy figures creates an environment where the past is never fully at rest, and where visitors are forced to confront the presence of something beyond the ordinary. Westfield Cemetery's allure lies not only in its paranormal activity, but in its ability to evoke curiosity and contemplation. Its shadowy figures, mysterious sounds, and sudden cold spots provide a glimpse into a world beyond the living, a place where memories and spirits linger long after death. For those who step cautiously through its gates at night, the cemetery offers a haunting encounter that is both unforgettable and unsettling, leaving them with the undeniable sense that some forces, whether benevolent or malevolent, continue to roam among the graves. Those who visit Westfield Cemetery may leave with a mixture of awe, fear, and reverence. Its spectral inhabitants and unexplained phenomena remind all who enter that the past is never truly gone, and that the boundary between life and death is often far thinner than we perceive. For those willing to explore its shadowed paths, Westfield Cemetery promises an encounter with the supernatural that is impossible to forget. Oak Hill Cemetery, located just outside New Brunswick in Highland Park, New Jersey, is a historic burial ground with a reputation that stretches far beyond its well-kept lawns and rows of weathered headstones. Established in the 19th century, the cemetery is home to generations of local residents. From prominent town figures to everyday citizens, each grave telling its own story. By day, it is a serene place, with sunlight filtering through towering oak trees and birdsong filling the air. Yet, as evening falls and shadows lengthen, Oak Hill Cemetery becomes something altogether different, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead feels impossibly thin, and where countless visitors have reported eerie experiences that cannot be explained by ordinary means. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at Oak Hill Cemetery is the sensation of being watched. Many who wander among the graves have described a sudden awareness, an invisible presence that seems to follow their every move. Visitors often feel eyes upon them, though turning quickly to see who or what is there reveals only empty paths and silent gravestones. This pervasive feeling of observation is so common that it has become one of the hallmark experiences of the cemetery, leaving a lasting sense of unease for anyone who explores its grounds after dark. The most famous ghost said to haunt Oak Hill Cemetery is that of a woman in Victorian-era clothing. Eyewitness accounts describe her as wearing a long, flowing dress with delicate lace trim, a style typical of the late 1800s. She is most often seen walking along the path near the oldest section of the cemetery, gliding silently past headstones that are cracked and covered in moss. Some witnesses have reported that she appears lost in thought, her gaze lowered as though mourning, while others claim she looks directly at them, her eyes conveying an indescribable sadness. When approached, she vanishes without a trace, leaving the observer questioning whether they had truly seen a ghost or merely imagined it. Visitors often describe strange auditory experiences in addition to these apparitions. Some report hearing faint whispers, as though soft conversations are occurring just out of reach. Though no other people are present, others have reported the sound of footsteps echoing on gravel paths, keeping pace with them as they walk, only to stop abruptly when they pause. On certain nights, the rustle of unseen clothing or the soft tap of heels can be heard, as though the Victorian woman is walking alongside them, invisible to the naked eye. These sounds, combined with the visual sightings, create an immersive and often unsettling experience, leaving witnesses with a heightened awareness of the cemetery's haunting presence. In addition to the Victorian woman, Oak Hill Cemetery has long been associated with shadowy figures and fleeting glimpses of human forms. Some witnesses report seeing indistinct silhouettes moving between gravestones or standing silently in the corners of their vision, disappearing when directly observed. Paranormal enthusiasts have frequently attempted to document these occurrences, setting up cameras and audio equipment during late-night vigils. While much of what they capture remains ambiguous, several reports confirm strange lights, moving shadows, and unexplained noises, suggesting that the cemetery holds more secrets than can be easily explained. The older sections of the cemetery, are often considered the most active, particularly areas where the oldest headstones lean precariously or are partially covered by vines and moss. Many believe that these graves, which have endured decades of weather and neglect, retain residual energy from the lives once lived. It is here that the Victorian woman is most commonly seen, and where visitors report the strongest feelings of being watched or followed. Some speculate that she may have been a resident of Highland Park in life, someone whose presence became attached to the cemetery through grief or tragedy. Others believe she may be a spirit tied to the place itself, a guardian of sorts for those who rest there. Oak Hill Cemetery is also known for sudden drops in temperature, another phenomenon reported by visitors. Many describe encountering pockets of icy air along the cemetery paths, often accompanied by the sensation of heaviness or a presence pressing down on them. These cold spots can appear without warning, sometimes coinciding with sightings of the Victorian woman or other ghostly forms. Such experiences leave visitors with an acute awareness of their surroundings and a sense that the cemetery is alive with energy that cannot be easily measured or understood. Despite its haunted reputation, Oak Hill Cemetery remains a site of historical importance and quiet reflection. By day, it is a place for contemplation, where families can visit loved ones and history enthusiasts can admire the aged monuments. Yet, the experiences reported after nightfall reveal a different side, one where history, memory, and unresolved sorrow converge, creating an environment thick with spectral energy. For those willing to walk its paths in the darkness, Oak Hill Cemetery offers encounters that are at once fascinating, unnerving, and unforgettable. Whether through fleeting glimpses of the Victorian woman, the soft sounds of footsteps and whispers, or the unshakable sensation of being watched, Oak Hill Cemetery reminds all who enter that the past is never entirely gone. Its shadows are alive with stories and spirits, and each visitor leaves with the undeniable impression that some presence lingers watching, waiting, and forever part of the quiet mystery of Highland Park. Bloomsbury Cemetery, located in the small town of Bloomsbury in Warren County, New Jersey, is a burial ground steeped in a dark and enigmatic history. Though its modest size and rural surroundings might suggest a peaceful resting place, the cemetery has long been associated with stories of supernatural occurrences, leaving a lasting impression on anyone who dares to enter its grounds after dark. Locals describe the cemetery as cursed, a place where the veil between the living and the dead feels unusually thin, and where shadows and whispers seem to linger long after the last rays of sunlight fade. The cemetery dates back to the early 1800s, making it one of the older burial grounds in Warren County. Over the decades, it has become a repository not only for the deceased, but also for the countless tales of ghostly phenomena that have grown around it. Visitors and locals alike speak of seeing strange lights hovering among the gravestones, appearing and disappearing without any discernible source. Some describe these lights as faint glows, barely visible in the darkness, while others claim they are bright orbs that move with purpose, as if guiding or warning those who wander too close. Among the most persistent tales are those of shadowy figures moving between the graves. Witnesses often report seeing human-shaped silhouettes that seem to glide rather than walk, appearing at the edge of their vision and vanishing when looked at directly. Some of these figures resemble men and women dressed in clothing from centuries past, suggesting that the spirits of the cemetery's earliest residents are not at rest. Others appear as darker, more abstract shadows, moving in ways that defy natural motion, leaving witnesses with a deep sense of unease and an instinctive feeling that they are not alone. Auditory phenomena are also frequently reported at Bloomsbury Cemetery. Many visitors have described hearing footsteps crunching on gravel paths when no one else is present. These sounds often follow individuals as they walk, seeming to match their pace, and then suddenly stop when they pause. Others report hearing faint whispers, unintelligible murmurs that drift through the trees, or even soft cries of anguish carried on the wind. These experiences combine with the visual apparitions to create an immersive sense of supernatural activity, leaving those who encounter them with an undeniable feeling that the cemetery holds secrets far beyond the reach of ordinary perception. Certain areas of Bloomsbury Cemetery are considered particularly active. One such section is located near the oldest gravestones, which are often cracked, weathered, and partially overgrown with vines. Visitors here frequently report seeing ghostly figures standing near the monuments, as if paying silent vigil or performing unseen rituals. Some claim that the spirits appear to acknowledge their presence, pausing or turning toward intruders before disappearing into the darkness. Others describe unexplained lights that flicker near these graves, suggesting a lingering energy that cannot be explained by natural causes. The cemetery is also known for sudden and inexplicable changes in temperature. People walking the grounds after dusk often encounter pockets of icy air, sometimes accompanied by a heavy, oppressive feeling that seems to press down on the body. These cold spots are frequently reported near areas where apparitions have been seen, leading some to believe that they mark places of intense emotional or spiritual energy. In addition, some visitors have claimed to feel a light touch on their shoulders or arms, as if someone or something is walking alongside them, invisible to the naked eye. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Bloomsbury Cemetery, intrigued by the consistency and variety of reported phenomena. Many have spent entire nights setting up cameras and audio equipment, hoping to capture evidence of the supernatural. Over the years, investigators have recorded strange lights, shadowy movements, and faint voices that seem to defy explanation. While skeptics dismiss these occurrences as tricks of the mind or natural anomalies, the sheer number of consistent reports over decades has cemented the cemetery's reputation as one of New Jersey's most haunted sites. Despite its reputation, Bloomsbury Cemetery is not merely a place of fear, it's also a historic landmark. By day, it serves as a quiet space of reflection, where visitors can explore the history of the town and honor those who came before. Yet as night falls, the atmosphere transforms. The combination of spectral figures, mysterious lights, and unexplained sounds creates an environment that feels charged with unseen energy, offering an immersive experience for those who are drawn to the paranormal. For anyone brave enough to explore Bloomsbury Cemetery after dark, the encounter can be both chilling and unforgettable. The shadowy figures, whispered voices, and shifting lights leave a lasting impression, a reminder that the past is never truly gone and that some spirits refuse to rest quietly. The cemetery's haunted legacy has been preserved through the stories passed down by locals, investigators, and visitors who have walked its paths in the dead of night, ensuring that its reputation as a cursed and mysterious location endures. Bloomsbury Cemetery stands as a testament to the thin line between life and death, history and legend. Its dark corners, ghostly apparitions, and unexplained phenomena create a space where the echoes of the past are tangible, and where every visitor can feel the lingering presence of those who have not yet moved on. It is a place where curiosity meets fear, where history meets mystery, and where the supernatural is never far from reality. For those willing to venture into its shadows, Bloomsbury Cemetery offers an unforgettable, haunting journey into the unknown. Fairmount Cemetery, located in Paterson, New Jersey, is a sprawling and historic burial ground known for both its historical significance and its reputation for paranormal activity. Established in the 19th century, the cemetery serves as the final resting place for some of the area's most prominent figures, including politicians, business leaders, and other notable residents. By day, it appears as a peaceful, reflective space with neatly aligned tombstones, ornate monuments, and pathways shaded by mature trees. Yet as night falls, a darker side emerges, drawing curiosity seekers, ghost hunters, and those intrigued by tales of the supernatural. The most talked about section of Fairmount Cemetery surrounds the tomb of a wealthy industrialist who died under mysterious and tragic circumstances. Details of his death remain vague, but the grave itself has become infamous among visitors for the strange occurrences that seem to revolve around it. Many have reported feeling an unnatural chill when approaching the tomb, as though the air itself has grown heavier. Some describe a sudden sensation of being watched, even when no one else is present. Others claim to hear faint whispers or murmurs emanating from the grave, indistinct yet unmistakably human in tone. Sightings of ghostly figures are particularly common in this part of the cemetery. Several witnesses have reported seeing the shadowy outline of a man, dressed in early 20th century attire, standing near the tomb. The figure is often motionless, watching those who approach, and vanishes instantly if someone tries to get a closer look. Some believe this apparition is the restless spirit of the industrialist himself, unable to leave the world due to unfinished business or the traumatic nature of his death. Others speculate that the figure may be an entirely different presence, drawn to the energy surrounding the grave. In addition to visual phenomena, visitors have frequently reported auditory anomalies. Footsteps echoing along gravel paths are a recurring experience, often following visitors before disappearing abruptly. Some have heard faint cries or sighs, sometimes accompanied by the low rumble of indistinct voices. The sounds are most commonly reported near the industrialist's tomb, giving the impression that the grave itself is the source of the haunting. On certain nights, the whispers are described as pleading or urgent, heightening the sense of unease that permeates the cemetery. Temperature fluctuations are another hallmark of Fairmount Cemetery. Many witnesses describe sudden drops in temperature when walking near the older sections, particularly around the tomb of the industrialist. These cold spots can feel intense, causing a chill that seems to seep into the bones, even on relatively mild evenings. Some have noted that these sensations are accompanied by a pressure in the air, as if something unseen is leaning close or watching over them. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site have documented these occurrences using thermal cameras and sensors, capturing temperature anomalies that cannot easily be explained. Shadowy figures and other visual anomalies add to the cemetery's eerie reputation. Visitors frequently report seeing shapes moving between the gravestones or standing at the edge of their vision, only to vanish when looked at directly. Occasionally, small orbs of light appear among the older tombstones, hovering briefly before dissipating. Some witnesses describe these lights as moving with purpose, almost as if guiding or interacting with the living in some way. Despite the haunting activity, Fairmount Cemetery is also a place of history and reflection. By day, visitors can explore the intricate monuments, admire the architecture of the gravestones, and learn about the notable figures buried there. Yet, the same paths that seem serene in daylight transform after sunset into a place where the line between the living and the dead feels thin. The combination of ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, and sudden drops in temperature ensures that visitors leave with a lingering sense of wonder and unease. The stories surrounding Fairmount Cemetery are passed down through generations, blending historical facts with folklore. While some dismiss the reports as imagination or coincidence, the sheer consistency of the accounts over decades suggests that something unusual resides within the grounds, whether it is the restless spirit of the industrialist, shadowy figures wandering the older sections, or the inexplicable cold spots and whispers. Fairmount Cemetery continues to captivate those intrigued by the unknown. For those willing to visit after dark, Fairmount Cemetery offers an unforgettable experience. Walking among the tombstones, hearing footsteps that may not belong to anyone alive, and feeling the weight of the past pressing close creates a chilling yet fascinating atmosphere. Fairmount Cemetery stands as a reminder that even in quiet, historical spaces, the presence of the past can linger, leaving visitors with a haunting glimpse into a world where the line between life and death is alarmingly thin. Cranberry Cemetery, nestled near the heart of the small town of Cranberry, New Jersey, is a site that blends historical charm with a reputation for eerie happenings. Though modest in size, the cemetery has captured the attention of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike due to its long history and the stories that have grown up around it. Originally, the land was farmland, with generations of laborers tending the fields before the area was designated as a final resting place. Over time, the spirits of those who lived and worked on the land are said to have remained, haunting the cemetery in ways that defy explanation. Visitors to Cranberry Cemetery often describe an immediate sense of stillness upon entering the grounds, By day, the cemetery appears tranquil, with neat rows of tombstones and well-kept paths shaded by mature trees. Yet, as the sun dips below the horizon and fog rolls in from the surrounding fields, the cemetery transforms. Many who have walked its paths after dark report feelings of unease, a sensation that they are not alone, even when no other person is present. This presence is often described as a subtle, almost imperceptible awareness, a feeling that eyes are following every movement. One of the most frequently reported phenomena in Cranberry Cemetery is the sound of footsteps echoing across the paths. On quiet, windy nights, these footsteps are often heard in the distance, coming closer and then fading away without explanation. Witnesses have described the sounds as uneven, sometimes quick, sometimes slow, as if the spirit of a former worker is retracing the steps they once took while tending the fields. Other auditory experiences include soft murmurs and whispered voices, seemingly carried on the wind, often impossible to decipher, but unmistakably human in origin. Some visitors claim they can hear the faint scraping of tools against the earth, as though the laborers of the past are still performing their work in the afterlife. Sightings of apparitions are also common. The most frequently reported is that of a figure dressed in simple, old-fashioned clothing, often seen near the oldest graves or along the edges of the cemetery where farmland once stretched. Witnesses describe the figure moving slowly among the tombstones. Some speculate that these figures are the spirits of former farm workers who died before the land was converted into a cemetery, their energy lingering because of a strong connection to the place. Others believe the apparitions may be the restless souls of those buried there, tied to the land through tragic or untimely deaths. In addition to ghostly figures, many visitors report strange visual anomalies. Shadows often seem to move independently of any physical source, darting across gravestones or stretching unnaturally along the ground. Some claim to have seen small, glowing orbs floating through the fog, illuminating sections of the cemetery for mere moments before vanishing. These unexplained lights often coincide with other paranormal phenomena, such as sudden cold spots, the sensation of being touched, or hearing a whisper calling their name. The combination of auditory and visual occurrences has given Cranberry Cemetery a reputation as one of the more active haunted sites in New Jersey. Weather conditions often appear to amplify the activity. Windy nights seem to carry the whispers and footsteps farther across the cemetery, while foggy evenings enhance the visual disturbances, making shadows appear more tangible and apparitions more defined. Some visitors have noted that certain areas of the cemetery feel heavier or colder than others, as though the presence of spirits is concentrated in particular spots. Many of these areas coincide with the oldest graves, suggesting a link between the age of the burial site and the intensity of paranormal activity. Local folklore further enriches the cemetery's haunted reputation. Stories passed down through generations speak of workers who died tragically in accidents or from illness while tending the farmland. It is said that their spirits were never laid fully to rest, wandering the cemetery and surrounding fields as reminders of lives cut short. Others recount tales of visitors feeling compelled to follow a shadowy figure to the edge of the cemetery, only to have it vanish, leaving them alone in the chilling night air. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Cranberry Cemetery, intrigued by the consistent reports of strange sounds, apparitions, and mysterious lights. Equipment set up by investigators has captured inexplicable movements on video, faint voices on audio recorders, and sudden temperature drops, particularly in areas where apparitions have been seen. While skeptics argue that these occurrences are the result of natural explanations, wind, fog, and imagination, the sheer volume and consistency of reports suggest that the cemetery holds a unique energy that is difficult to explain away. Despite its haunted reputation, Cranberry Cemetery is also a place of historical significance and quiet reflection. By day, visitors can appreciate the cemetery's well-maintained grounds, its historical gravestones, and the peaceful landscape. Yet after nightfall, the cemetery transforms into a place where the past is tangibly present, and where the spirits of the land's former inhabitants seem to remain close. Cranberry Cemetery remains a compelling destination for those fascinated by the paranormal. From the sound of ghostly footsteps and distant whispers to shadowy figures and unexplained lights, every visit carries the potential for an encounter with the unexplained. Whether these phenomena are the remnants of a tragic history or the lingering presence of spirits tied to the land, one thing is clear: Cranberry Cemetery is more than just a resting place. It is a site where history, mystery, and the supernatural converge, leaving visitors with an unforgettable, haunting experience. Mount Zion Cemetery, located on the outskirts of Ewing, New Jersey, is a historic site steeped in mystery and a long-standing reputation for paranormal activity. The cemetery's history stretches back to the 19th century, and over the decades, it has become known not only for the notable individuals buried there, but also for the eerie and unexplained phenomena reported by visitors. Its remote location, surrounded by dense trees and winding paths, lends an atmosphere of quiet isolation that only intensifies the cemetery's haunted reputation. Many of the haunting tales surrounding Mount Zion Cemetery are tied to the spirits of Civil War soldiers. The cemetery contains graves of veterans who served bravely, but whose deaths came under tragic circumstances. Visitors have reported seeing spectral figures in period uniforms walking silently among the gravestones, sometimes carrying weapons or standing in formation as if preparing for a march long after the war has ended. These apparitions are often described as transparent or glowing faintly in the moonlight, vanishing suddenly when approached. Witnesses recount feeling a heavy presence near these graves, a sense of solemnity and unresolved sorrow that seems to permeate the surrounding air. In addition to soldiers, Mount Zion Cemetery is believed to be haunted by the spirits of those who died in accidents or under violent circumstances. Over the decades, many visitors have reported experiencing chilling sensations while walking the cemetery grounds. Sudden drops in temperature, often localized to certain sections, are commonly reported. Some describe these cold spots as so intense that they can see their breath, despite mild weather. Alongside these cold areas, a pervasive feeling of being watched is frequently noted, with many claiming to sense invisible eyes tracking their movements as they navigate the old tombstones. The cemetery is also known for its auditory phenomena. Visitors have reported hearing distant whispers, muffled conversations, and even the faint sounds of marching or clanging metal, particularly near the sections dedicated to veterans. Some have recounted the unsettling experience of hearing footsteps behind them that match their own pace, only to turn and find no one present. Others describe ghostly voices calling out names or speaking in languages that are difficult to identify, adding to the atmosphere of unease. On windy nights, these sounds are said to carry across the cemetery with a clarity that makes it seem as though the past is trying to reach out to the present. Visual anomalies are another hallmark of Mount Zion Cemetery. Shadowy figures are often glimpsed at the edge of one's vision, moving between gravestones or disappearing into the trees. Some visitors have described seeing ghostly orbs of light floating among the tombstones, hovering above the ground before dissipating suddenly. On rare occasions, these lights appear to coalesce into faint human shapes, further adding to the sense that the cemetery is alive with lingering spirits. In some reports, these apparitions seem to follow visitors along the paths, appearing in different locations just as the person turns to look again, creating a sense of being guided or perhaps stalked by unseen entities. Certain graves within the cemetery are considered especially active. The older sections, with cracked and weathered headstones, often attract the most reports of paranormal activity. Many visitors have noted that the area surrounding these graves feels heavier, as if the emotional energy of the deceased is pressing down on those who enter. Some claim to have seen spectral soldiers standing vigil over these older tombstones, while others describe more abstract shadows that move independently of any discernible source. The presence of these apparitions has drawn both curiosity seekers and serious paranormal investigators to Mount Zion Cemetery for decades. Paranormal investigators have spent nights documenting the unusual occurrences at Mount Zion Cemetery. Using audio recorders, cameras, and thermal imaging, they have captured strange lights, unexplained temperature fluctuations, and eerie sounds that cannot be accounted for by natural causes. Despite skepticism from some, the consistency of eyewitness accounts over the years lends credibility to the idea that Mount Zion is more than just a peaceful resting place. It is a site where the past remains vividly, hauntingly present. Local folklore has further shaped the cemetery's haunted reputation. Stories passed down through generations tell of restless soldiers who patrol the grounds, mourning those who died beside them, and of tragic victims who cannot move on due to unfinished business or untimely deaths. These tales, coupled with eyewitness experiences, make Mount Zion Cemetery a unique and chilling location for those interested in the supernatural. Despite its eerie reputation, Mount Zion Cemetery remains an important historical site. By day, it provides a peaceful space for reflection, honoring the lives of veterans, early settlers, and those lost in tragic events. Visitors can explore the cemeteries, monuments, and headstones, gaining a sense of the community's history. Yet, after nightfall, the atmosphere changes. The shadows deepen, the air grows colder, and the faint sounds of the past seem to echo through the trees and along the paths. It is during these hours that Mount Zion Cemetery truly earns its reputation as one of New Jersey's most haunted locations. For those willing to brave its winding paths after dark, Mount Zion Cemetery offers an unforgettable encounter with the unknown. The combination of ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, and an overwhelming sense of being watched creates an immersive experience that lingers long after leaving the grounds. Whether it is the spectral soldiers, the mournful victims of accidents, or the shadowy figures that glide between the tombstones, Mount Zion Cemetery stands as a place where history, mystery, and the supernatural converge, leaving visitors with a haunting glimpse into a world where the past never truly rests. Princeton Cemetery, located in the heart of the historic town of Princeton, New Jersey, is a place where history and the supernatural intersect. The cemetery has long been a resting place for notable figures, including university founders, prominent academics, and influential town residents. While the grounds are beautifully maintained and serene during the day, many visitors report that after dark, the cemetery takes on a far more unsettling atmosphere, one steeped in legend and paranormal activity. The origins of Princeton Cemetery date back to the 18th and 19th centuries, making it one of the oldest burial grounds in the region. Over time, it has accumulated a rich tapestry of stories, many of which revolve around the spirits of those who never truly left. Among the most commonly reported phenomena are ghostly apparitions seen moving silently among the gravestones. Witnesses describe figures dressed in the formal attire of centuries past, men in long coats and women in flowing gowns who seem to glide across the grounds rather than walk. These apparitions are often spotted near the oldest sections of the cemetery, where the gravestones are worn and cracked, suggesting a lingering attachment to the place of their final rest. Many visitors to Princeton Cemetery have recounted a profound sense of being watched. Even when the cemetery is empty, a feeling of unseen eyes tracking every movement is frequently described. Some have claimed to see figures standing just beyond the trees, blending almost seamlessly with the shadows, only to vanish when approached. This sensation is particularly strong near the graves of prominent historical figures, leading some to believe that the spirits of Princeton's founders remain to oversee the town they helped shape. Auditory experiences are a common occurrence in the cemetery. Footsteps echoing on the gravel paths are often heard, though no living person is present. Whispered voices, soft sighs, and occasional indistinct murmurs have been reported, seeming to emanate from the very earth itself. Visitors often say that the sounds are both soothing and unsettling, like remnants of a long-forgotten conversation carried forward through time. Some claim to hear the faint rustling of clothing, reminiscent of the attire worn by those who lived during the 18th and 19th centuries, further blurring the line between the living and the dead. Temperature anomalies are another hallmark of the cemetery's paranormal activity. Many report sudden, localized drops in temperature, often near older graves or sections that are less frequently visited. These cold spots are sometimes accompanied by an overwhelming feeling of heaviness, as though the spirits themselves are pressing close. Paranormal investigators who have explored the grounds have documented these occurrences, recording abrupt temperature fluctuations that defy logical explanation. Sightings of spectral figures are complemented by unusual visual phenomena. Shadows are said to move independently of any light source, sometimes darting between gravestones or stretching unnaturally across the paths. Others have reported seeing small orbs of light hovering among the trees or above graves, glowing faintly before fading into the darkness. On rare occasions, these lights have appeared to form human shapes or to follow visitors along the paths, heightening the sensation of being watched and accompanied by unseen presences. Local folklore further adds to the mystique of Princeton Cemetery. Stories passed down through generations tell of spirits who remain tied to the living world, unable to leave due to unfinished business or a deep attachment to their former lives. One popular tale speaks of a university founder who reportedly appears during quiet nights, walking among the tombstones as if ensuring the history and legacy of Princeton are preserved. Other legends speak of students who tragically died before their time, their spirits wandering the grounds and sometimes appearing to those who show respect or curiosity about the cemetery's past. Despite its haunted reputation, Princeton Cemetery is also a place of reflection and history. By day, visitors can explore the beautifully landscaped grounds, admire the intricate headstones, and contemplate the lives of those buried there. Yet the same paths that seem serene during daylight hours transform after nightfall into an arena of subtle, eerie activity. The combination of ghostly apparitions, unexplained sounds, and temperature anomalies ensures that visitors leave with a sense of both wonder and unease, making the cemetery an unforgettable location for those drawn to the paranormal. Paranormal investigators and enthusiasts frequently visit Princeton Cemetery to document and study the strange phenomena reported over the years. Using audio equipment, cameras, and thermal sensors, they have captured unexplained lights, sudden drops in temperature, and fleeting shadowy figures. These findings, alongside decades of eyewitness accounts, suggest that the cemetery is a site where the past remains vividly present, a place where history refuses to remain buried. For those brave enough to visit Princeton Cemetery at night, the experience is both haunting and humbling. Walking among the gravestones, hearing footsteps that belong to no one living, and witnessing shadows that seem alive creates an encounter with the past unlike any other. Whether it is the founders who linger, the students who roam the grounds, or the spirits whose stories have been lost to time, Princeton Cemetery stands as a reminder that the boundary between the living and the dead is far thinner than most people realize. Petty Memorial Cemetery, located in the quiet town of Hightstown, New Jersey, appears at first glance to be a serene and peaceful resting place, with well-kept paths, neatly arranged gravestones, and mature trees casting long shadows across the grounds. It embodies the calm often associated with cemeteries. Yet, beneath this tranquil exterior lies a darker side, one that has intrigued locals, paranormal enthusiasts, and curious visitors for decades. The cemetery's long history, marked by both notable burials and mysterious occurrences, has made it a focal point for ghost stories and strange happenings. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Petty Memorial Cemetery involves apparitions moving silently between the gravestones. Visitors often recount seeing shadowy figures gliding along the paths, dressed in clothing reminiscent of earlier centuries. These figures seem to watch those who enter the cemetery, sometimes disappearing instantly when approached. The apparitions are most frequently seen near the older sections, where weathered stones and crypts hint at a bygone era, suggesting that the spirits of those who lived long ago remain tethered to this place. The cemetery's reputation is not limited to visual sightings. Auditory phenomena are often reported by those who explore the grounds after dark. Soft whispers, faint laughter, or indistinct voices have been heard echoing between the gravestones, seeming to come from nowhere in particular. Some visitors describe footsteps that follow them along the gravel paths, matching their pace, only to vanish abruptly when they turn to look. Others have claimed to hear the rustling of fabric, reminiscent of old-fashioned garments, or the distant sound of bells tolling, even though no one is present to ring them. Cold spots and sudden temperature changes are another hallmark of Petty Memorial Cemeteries' paranormal activity. Visitors frequently report feeling abrupt chills, sometimes accompanied by a sense of heavy pressure in the air. These cold areas are particularly pronounced near the graves of those who died under tragic or mysterious circumstances. Paranormal investigators, who have spent nights documenting activity at the cemetery, have recorded sudden temperature drops and unexplained fluctuations, which they believe may be linked to the presence of spirits unable to move on. The cemetery is also known for strange visual anomalies. Many visitors have reported seeing small orbs of light hovering among the tombstones or near the trees at the edges of the cemetery. Occasionally, these lights appear to coalesce into faint human shapes, moving slowly or following visitors along the paths before disappearing into the darkness. Some witnesses have even described seeing more defined spectral figures, their faces and hands vaguely visible, watching silently as people pass. These sightings often leave those who encounter them with a lingering sense of unease and a feeling that they are not alone. Local lore surrounding Petty Memorial Cemetery adds to its mystique. Over the years, tales of mysterious deaths, tragic accidents, and untimely passings have circulated in high. Some say that those who died under unusual or violent circumstances are particularly restless, their spirits wandering the cemetery in search of closure or companionship. One popular story tells of a grieving mother who reportedly walks the cemetery at night, searching for a child lost many years ago. Witnesses claim to have seen a woman in old-fashioned clothing, sometimes carrying what appears to be a small bundle, only for her to vanish before they can approach. The cemetery's reputation has drawn both curiosity seekers and paranormal investigators. Equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and thermal sensors, investigators have documented a variety of strange phenomena. Some have captured unexplained lights and shadowy figures on camera, while others report recording faint voices or whispers during audio monitoring sessions. The consistency of these accounts over decades lends credibility to the idea that Petty Memorial Cemetery is more than just a resting place. It is a location where the presence of the past lingers vividly. Despite the eerie reputation, Petty Memorial Cemetery is also a place of history and reflection. By day, visitors can walk among the gravestones, learning about the town's history and the lives of those who are buried there. The monuments, headstones, and inscriptions offer a glimpse into the lives of Heightstown's past residents, preserving their stories for future generations. Yet after nightfall, the cemetery transforms. The combination of shadowy figures, unexplained sounds, and cold spots ensures that each visit carries a sense of awe, fear, and fascination. The experiences at Petty Memorial Cemetery often leave visitors with a profound sense of connection to the past. Walking among the gravestones, seeing apparitions, or hearing disembodied whispers can be both chilling and humbling, reminding people that the boundary between the living and the dead is often thinner than it seems. The cemetery serves as a living testament to Heightstown's history, its people, and the mysteries that endure beyond death. For those willing to visit Petty Memorial Cemetery after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Every step along its winding paths carries a sense of anticipation, as if the shadows themselves are watching. Whether it is the spirits of those who lived long ago, the apparitions tied to tragic events, or the inexplicable lights and sounds that defy explanation, Petty Memorial Cemetery remains one of New Jersey's most haunting locations, a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Essex County Cemetery, located on the outskirts of Newark, New Jersey, stands as a solemn reminder of the past. Its quiet grounds, dotted with weathered tombstones and ancient monuments, offer a stark contrast to the bustling city just beyond its gates. While the cemetery is visited during the day by those paying respects to loved ones, it is at night that the grounds take on a more ominous presence. For decades, locals and visitors alike have reported strange occurrences that defy explanation. giving Essex County Cemetery a reputation as one of the eeriest burial grounds in the region. The oldest section of Essex County Cemetery is particularly notorious for paranormal activity. Here, the stones are cracked and worn, many covered in moss or partially sunken into the earth, giving the area a hauntingly ancient feel. It is in this section that witnesses most frequently report seeing the figure of a man wandering silently among the graves. Descriptions of the figure vary, but many say he appears to be dressed in early 20th century clothing, dark suit, hat, and sometimes even a long overcoat. He is often seen walking slowly along the paths, stopping briefly at certain graves before continuing, his presence seeming both deliberate and sorrowful. Those who have encountered the figure report an immediate sense of unease. Some describe feeling a heavy weight in the air, as if the man's presence brings with it the weight of decades of unresolved grief. Others have reported that their skin grows cold, despite mild nighttime temperatures, and a chill seems to follow them as they move through the older section. It is a sensation that many describe as both terrifying and compelling, a combination that keeps them looking over their shoulders, while simultaneously drawing them closer to the figure. The auditory phenomena at Essex County Cemetery are as unsettling as the visual ones. Visitors often hear faint footsteps echoing along the gravel paths, though when they turn to see who is behind them, the paths remain empty. Some have reported muffled whispers or distant murmurs, as if the spirits of the cemetery are quietly conversing among themselves. Occasionally, the rustling of clothing can be heard, even when there is no wind, adding to the sense that the wandering figure is moving silently but deliberately among the graves. These experiences are most commonly reported near the oldest and least maintained graves, suggesting that the man may be tied to the history buried in that section of the cemetery. Sightings of the figure are not always fleeting. Some witnesses claim to have followed the man for several minutes, only for him to vanish suddenly, often at the edge of their vision or in the shadow of a tree. Others have reported more chilling encounters, where the figure seems to watch silently as they approach a particular grave, and then disappears entirely when confronted. It is this unpredictability and the ephemeral nature of the apparitions that makes the cemetery so unnerving, leaving visitors questioning whether what they saw was real or merely a trick of the imagination in the dim moonlight. In addition to the wandering figure, Essex County Cemetery is known for other unexplained phenomena. Orbs of light have been reported floating above the graves, flickering like small lanterns before disappearing. Sudden temperature drops are common, particularly around the older tombstones, creating pockets of cold air that make the hair on one's arms stand on end. Some visitors report feeling unseen hands brush past them or a gentle pressure against their back, as if the spirits are aware of their presence and want to be acknowledged. Local folklore adds layers of depth to the haunting reputation of Essex County Cemetery. Some believe the wandering figure is the restless spirit of a caretaker or a long-deceased resident, tied to the cemetery by unfinished business or a lingering attachment to the world of the living. Others speculate that he could be a victim of an untimely death, whose soul is unable to move on, eternally retracing the paths he once walked in life. Over the years, these stories have been passed down through generations, blending fact and legend in a way that makes the cemetery both historically significant and supremely mysterious. Paranormal investigators have taken a keen interest in Essex County Cemetery, particularly the older sections, using thermal cameras, audio recorders, and other specialized equipment. They have documented unusual temperature fluctuations, faint EVP, electronic voice phenomena recordings, and fleeting shadowy figures. While skeptics often attribute these occurrences to imagination or environmental factors, the sheer consistency and frequency of the reports over decades suggest that there is something unexplainable lingering among the graves. Despite its chilling reputation, Essex County Cemetery is also a place of reflection and history. During the day, visitors can stroll through the grounds, read the inscriptions on the tombstones, and connect with the lives of those buried there. The history of the cemetery is preserved not only in the names engraved on the stones, but also in the stories and legends that have grown around it. Yet, as night falls, the serene landscape transforms into a place of mystery and suspense, where shadows seem to move independently, and the line between the living and the dead becomes unnervingly thin. For those willing to venture into Essex County Cemetery after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Walking the paths, hearing footsteps that belong to no one alive, and catching glimpses of the wandering figure creates a chilling encounter with history and the supernatural. Whether it is the man in the old suit, the whispering voices, or the inexplicable cold spots, the cemetery leaves visitors with a profound sense of awe, fear, and curiosity. Essex County Cemetery serves as a haunting reminder that even in the heart of a bustling city like Newark, the past is never truly buried, and some spirits never rest. Evergreen Cemetery in Morristown, New Jersey, is a sprawling resting place filled with history, solemn monuments, and quiet pathways lined with aged trees. By day, it presents itself as a serene and reflective location where visitors can wander among the gravestones, contemplating the lives and legacies of those buried there. However, as night falls, Evergreen Cemetery transforms into a place of chilling mystery, drawing the attention of locals, historians, and paranormal enthusiasts alike. Over the years, numerous accounts have surfaced of strange and unexplained phenomena, earning the cemetery a reputation as one of Morristown's most haunted locations. The origins of Evergreen Cemetery's eerie reputation are closely tied to the Revolutionary War. Morristown played a pivotal role during the war, and many soldiers who fought and died in the area are believed to be buried within the cemetery grounds. Witnesses have long reported hearing sounds that evoke the past footsteps that resemble marching soldiers, the clash of swords, and distant battle cries that echo across the grounds on quiet nights. Some visitors claim that these sounds are so vivid and realistic that it feels as though the cemetery is momentarily transported back to the 18th century, with soldiers still defending their cause. Those who explore the cemetery after dark often describe the atmosphere as thick with anticipation and tension. The air seems heavier, colder, and charged with an energy that is difficult to explain. Many report hearing footsteps behind them, even when the paths are completely empty. Occasionally, these footsteps appear to match their own pace, as if unseen soldiers are walking alongside them. When visitors turn to confront the source, there is nothing but shadows and the faint rustling of leaves. Some have even described hearing the distinct sound of musket fire in the distance, a chilling reminder of the battles that once took place near Morristown. One of the most persistent legends involves the spectral reenactment of a battle on particularly quiet nights. Witnesses have claimed to see faint outlines of soldiers, dressed in Revolutionary-era uniforms, moving in formation between the gravestones. These figures often appear transparent, shimmering slightly in the moonlight, yet they behave as though alive, marching, conversing, and sometimes disappearing suddenly as if pulled back into another time. Some visitors report catching glimpses of officers giving orders, while others claim to have seen soldiers tending to fallen comrades. The intensity of these visions varies, but for those who experience them, it is profoundly unsettling. Auditory phenomena are not limited to the sounds of battle. Whispered voices are frequently reported, often sounding like fragments of conversation from the past. Some visitors have described hearing their own names called in these whispers, though no one is present. The cemetery is also known for sudden drops in temperature, creating pockets of icy air along certain paths or near older gravestones. These cold spots are often accompanied by a feeling of being watched, heightening the sense of unease for anyone walking alone. Visual anomalies are another hallmark of Evergreen Cemeteries. Hauntings, faint orbs of light, have been seen floating among the graves, sometimes moving in ways that seem intelligent or purposeful. On rare occasions, more defined spectral figures are visible, sometimes appearing to interact with the environment moving through trees, pausing at tombstones, or vanishing abruptly when approached. Many of these sightings occur near the oldest sections of the cemetery, suggesting that the spirits are tied to specific locations or events in history. Local folklore has further amplified the cemetery's haunted reputation. Residents often speak of soldiers who perished far from home, their spirits lingering to protect or guard the grounds where they were laid to rest. Some legends suggest that the sounds of battle and marching are the echoes of unfinished business, as though the spirits are replaying their final moments over and over. Others claim that certain spirits are drawn to visitors, curious about the living and their connection to history. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to Evergreen Cemetery, bringing with them a range of equipment to document unusual activity: thermal cameras, audio recorders, and electromagnetic field detectors have all captured anomalies that defy easy explanation. Investigators have recorded faint voices, shadowy figures, and sudden temperature drops, adding to the growing collection of evidence suggesting that the cemetery is far from a quiet resting place. Despite the chilling encounters reported, Evergreen Cemetery remains a place of historical importance and reflection. During daylight hours, it is possible to appreciate the beauty and serenity of the grounds, to read the inscriptions on the tombstones, and to connect with the legacy of Morristown's past residents. However, as darkness falls, the cemetery transforms into a site where history and the supernatural intersect, leaving visitors with a profound sense of awe, fear, and reverence. For those brave enough to explore Evergreen Cemetery after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Walking among the gravestones, hearing the distant sounds of battle, and catching glimpses of shadowy soldiers creates an encounter with history that is as thrilling as it is unnerving. Whether it is the footsteps of long-dead soldiers, the whispers of voices long past, or the chilling cold spots that defy explanation, Evergreen Cemetery offers a haunting reminder that the past is never truly gone. Its grounds preserve not only the memory of those who lived and died, but also the echoes of their struggles, ensuring that the cemetery's legacy continues to captivate and unsettle anyone who dares to wander its shadowed paths at night. The Old Dutch Burial Ground in Somerville, New Jersey, is a historic cemetery that has stood for centuries, quietly witnessing the passage of time. Established in the 18th century, the cemetery is one of the oldest in the region and holds the remains of early settlers, soldiers, and notable figures from the area's formative years. While its aged gravestones and weathered monuments offer a glimpse into colonial life, the cemetery has long been shrouded in an air of mystery and whispers of the supernatural. Over the years, residents, historians, and ghost enthusiasts alike have reported strange occurrences that have cemented the cemetery's reputation as a site of hauntings and unresolved energies. The Old Dutch Burial Ground is particularly known for its eerie ambience. Its grounds are marked by tightly clustered gravestones, some leaning precariously after centuries of weathering, and gnarled trees whose branches twist overhead like skeletal hands. Fog often rolls in from nearby lowlands, creating a dense, almost impenetrable mist that cloaks the cemetery in an unsettling veil. On nights when the moon is hidden behind clouds, the cemetery appears to come alive with a presence that is both solemn and menacing. Visitors often report a feeling of being watched, an invisible gaze following their every movement as they tread carefully among the gravestones. Several of the most persistent legends surrounding the Old Dutch Burial Ground involve unresolved deaths. Local lore recounts the stories of young settlers, soldiers, and travelers who met tragic or untimely ends. Their lives cut short by disease, conflict, or accidents. Many believe that the spirits of these individuals remain trapped within the cemetery gates, unable to move on until their stories are acknowledged. Witnesses have described hearing faint whispers drifting through the night, voices carrying snippets of conversations from centuries past, calling out names or murmuring pleas for help. Some visitors claim that these sounds are localized, as if a spirit is standing just behind them, but when they turn, there is no one there. One of the most chilling reports involves a figure often seen near the oldest section of the cemetery. Witnesses describe a shadowy silhouette, sometimes appearing as a man in colonial attire or as an indistinct shape, moving silently among the gravestones. The figure rarely interacts directly with visitors, but seems to be observing, disappearing as suddenly as it appears. Some have reported that the apparition seems tied to specific graves, pausing near a tombstone for several minutes before fading into the darkness. Others recount experiences of following the figure along a path, only for it to vanish into thin air, leaving a sense of profound unease in its wake. The cemetery is also known for inexplicable physical sensations. Sudden drops in temperature, often accompanied by a chilling breeze, are commonly reported, even on warm summer nights. Some visitors have described feeling an unseen hand brushing against them or a gentle pressure on their shoulders, as if the spirits are reaching out to make their presence known. These occurrences are particularly common near older graves or in areas where the ground is uneven, hinting at long-forgotten burial sites beneath the surface. Auditory phenomena extend beyond whispers and murmurs. Some visitors have reported hearing the sound of footsteps that do not correspond to any living person, echoing over the gravel paths or through the grassy plots. Others have heard the distant tolling of a bell or the rhythmic clatter of horse hooves, evoking images of a bygone era when the cemetery was a central part of community life. On rare occasions, the cries of someone in distress have been reported, only to fade abruptly, leaving a haunting silence that seems almost tangible. Visual anomalies are another hallmark of the old Dutch burial ground. Faint orbs of light have been observed floating above the graves, drifting between headstones before disappearing entirely. Some witnesses have seen fleeting glimpses of figures dressed in period clothing, sometimes carrying objects like lanterns or tools, appearing to move through the cemetery as though performing long-forgotten tasks. While these sightings are brief, they are often accompanied by a deep sense of sorrow or longing, reinforcing the idea that the cemetery holds the memories and unfinished business of those buried there. Paranormal investigators have long been drawn to the old Dutch burial ground, using cameras, audio recorders, and other equipment to document the unusual activity. Many claim to have captured faint EVP, electronic voice phenomena, recordings of whispers and calls, shadowy figures caught on infrared cameras, and sudden temperature fluctuations that defy natural explanation. While skeptics often argue that these occurrences can be attributed to environmental factors or imagination, the consistency and longevity of reports lend credence to the idea that something beyond the ordinary lingers within the cemetery. Despite its chilling reputation, the old Dutch burial ground is also a place of historical significance and quiet reflection. During the day, visitors can explore the centuries-old gravestones, read inscriptions that tell the stories of lives long past, and appreciate the cemetery's role in the history of Somerville. But as night falls, the cemetery transforms into a realm where history and the supernatural intersect, leaving visitors with a mixture of awe, reverence, and apprehension. For those who venture into the old Dutch burial ground after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Walking among the gravestones, feeling the sudden chills, and witnessing glimpses of shadowy figures creates an encounter with both history and the unknown. Whether it is the whispers of trapped souls, the ghostly footsteps echoing across the paths, or the fleeting visions of spirits bound to the cemetery, the old Dutch burial ground serves as a haunting reminder that some histories are never fully laid to rest. Its grounds continue to captivate the curious, the brave, and the haunted, preserving the legacy of those who once walked the earth, while hinting at the mysteries that linger beyond the veil of the living world. The Clinton Cemetery, nestled along a remote stretch of Route 31 in New Jersey, is a site steeped in history and shrouded in mystery. Surrounded by dense woods and far from the bustling towns, the cemetery's secluded location adds to its reputation as a place of eerie occurrences and unexplained phenomena. Visitors often remark on the feeling of isolation as they approach the old iron gates, with the wind whispering through the trees and the faint creak of branches sounding almost like footsteps. Over the years, the cemetery has become a focal point for local legends and ghost stories, drawing paranormal enthusiasts, curious travelers, and those brave enough to confront the unknown. The history of Clinton's cemetery stretches back to the 18th and 19th centuries. Many of the gravestones are weathered and cracked, bearing inscriptions that tell stories of early settlers, farmers, and townspeople whose lives were shaped by the harsh realities of rural New Jersey. Among these gravestones lie the remains of individuals who died unexpectedly or tragically, and it is the untimely nature of some of these deaths that many believe contributes to the cemetery's haunting. Residents and visitors alike have long reported seeing ghostly figures wandering among the tombstones, especially as twilight gives way to darkness. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the sighting of shadowy figures standing silently near gravestones. Witnesses describe these apparitions as dark silhouettes, sometimes resembling the shape of a man or woman, motionless as if watching over the grounds. These figures often appear near the older sections of the cemetery, where the oldest and most weathered tombstones reside. Some claim to have seen these shapes turn to follow their movements with unseen eyes, only to vanish suddenly when approached, leaving behind an unsettling stillness and an unshakable feeling of being observed. Auditory experiences are also common at Clinton Cemetery. Many visitors report hearing footsteps echoing along the gravel paths, even when they are alone. Some describe whispers that seem to drift through the air, soft and indistinct at first, gradually forming fragments of words or phrases that suggest long-forgotten conversations. Occasionally, these sounds are accompanied by the faint clatter of chains or the distant groan of an old gate swinging in the wind. Although the cemetery gates are often securely latched and show no sign of movement, these unexplained noises contribute to the pervasive sense of unease that many people feel while walking through the grounds after dark. A particularly chilling legend tells of a lone figure seen walking the cemetery paths late at night, described as wearing tattered clothing reminiscent of the 19th century. The figure appears to move silently between gravestones, stopping intermittently, as though searching for someone or something. Witnesses often report that the figure seems to vanish without a trace whenever they try to approach it, leaving behind only a cold breeze and a lingering feeling of sorrow. Some theorists believe this spirit may be connected to a tragic event in the cemetery's past, perhaps someone who died in isolation or under mysterious circumstances. The cemetery is also known for sudden drops in temperature and localized cold spots, particularly near older graves. Visitors have described feeling an invisible presence brush against them or experience a sense of pressure in the air, as if someone or something is close by. These physical sensations often intensify at night, reinforcing the belief that the cemetery is inhabited by restless spirits. Some claim to have felt compelled to leave certain areas, as if an unseen force is guiding them away from specific graves or paths. Visual anomalies are frequently reported as well. Faint lights or orbs have been seen floating above or between the gravestones, moving in ways that defy natural explanation. On rare occasions, witnesses have reported more solid apparitions, partial figures or faces appearing briefly before vanishing into the shadows. Many of these sightings occur along the old pathways, suggesting that certain areas of the cemetery may be more active than others, perhaps linked to particular graves or events from the past. Paranormal investigators have been drawn to Clinton Cemetery for years, bringing cameras, audio recording equipment, and EMF detectors in an effort to document its mysterious activity. Many claim to have captured ghostly images, faint voices on recordings, and other anomalies that cannot be easily explained. These reports only add to the cemetery's allure, cementing its reputation as one of the most haunted sites along Route 31. Despite its reputation, Clinton Cemetery remains a place of historical significance. During daylight hours, it is possible to appreciate the aged gravestones, the quiet beauty of the grounds, and the sense of connection to generations long past. However, as darkness falls, the cemetery transforms into a place where the boundary between the living and the dead seems to blur, and the history of the town comes alive in ways that are both fascinating and unsettling. For those who dare to visit Clinton Cemetery after dark, the experience is unforgettable. Walking along the gravel paths, hearing footsteps that echo without source, and catching glimpses of shadowy figures among the gravestones creates an encounter with the past that is as chilling as it is intriguing. The cemetery serves as a reminder that some histories never truly rest, and that in the quiet, remote corners of the world, the spirits of the past may still linger, watching and waiting for anyone who crosses into their domain. In Clinton Cemetery, the echoes of the past remain alive, inviting the brave and the curious to witness the haunted legacy of this remote New Jersey landmark. St. Joseph's Cemetery, in Toms River, New Jersey, is a place that exudes solemnity and quiet reflection, a cemetery that has held the memories of generations for over a century. Nestled amid towering trees and bordered by quiet streets, the cemetery's weathered headstones tell stories of lives long past. From early settlers to notable members of the local community, the graves reflect a deep and complex history. But beneath the serene surface of St. Joseph's Cemetery lies a legend that has captivated and unsettled locals for decades. The story of a restless priest whose spirit is said to roam the grounds under mysterious circumstances. The tale centers on Father Matthias, a dedicated priest who served the Toms River Parish in the late 1800s. Known for his unwavering devotion and compassion, Father Matthias was beloved by his congregation. He spent his life tending to his parishioners, offering guidance, comfort, and spiritual leadership. However, his life ended abruptly in a manner that remained shrouded in mystery. Historical accounts record that he was found dead on the cemetery grounds near the oldest section of St. Joseph's. The cause of his death was never conclusively determined, leading to speculation ranging from natural causes to foul play. Some even whispered that Father Matthias's spirit could not rest because of unfinished duties or a sense of injustice surrounding his death. Since that time, visitors to St. Joseph's Cemetery have reported numerous encounters with the supernatural, many of which center on the area where Father Matthias was last seen. The most commonly reported phenomenon is the sighting of a shadowy figure dressed in the traditional robes of a priest. Witnesses describe seeing the figure moving silently among the graves or standing still as if in contemplation. Often, it appears as if the figure is gliding above the ground rather than walking, giving the apparition an ethereal quality. When approached, the figure vanishes suddenly, leaving behind an eerie stillness and a sense of being observed. Auditory phenomena are frequently reported as well. Visitors often describe hearing the sound of footsteps echoing along the gravel paths, even when no one else is present. Some have claimed to hear faint murmurs of prayer, indistinct chants, or a gentle voice calling their name. These sounds are particularly pronounced near the older graves, where the earliest settlers and parishioners are buried. The combination of silence, interrupted by these inexplicable noises, creates an atmosphere that is both unnerving and strangely captivating. Temperature fluctuations also contribute to the cemetery's haunted reputation. Many visitors describe sudden drops in temperature near Father Matthias's resting place, feeling as though a cold presence has passed by them. Some report the sensation of an invisible touch on their shoulder, or a gentle brush of air across their neck. Experiences that reinforce the belief that the priest's spirit is near, watching and interacting with those who enter the cemetery after dark. These chilling encounters are often accompanied by a sense of profound sorrow, as if the spirit of Father Matthias carries the weight of unresolved matters from his earthly life. Visual anomalies extend beyond the shadowy figure. Some witnesses have reported seeing faint orbs of light hovering above the graves or drifting along the cemetery paths. Others describe fleeting images of a full apparition, the priest holding a book of prayers, his expression somber and filled with quiet urgency. Some believe that these manifestations are signs of unfinished business or a lingering connection to the living world. As Father Matthias continues his eternal watch over the cemetery he once tended, paranormal investigators have long been drawn to St. Joseph's Cemetery, using cameras, audio recorders, and EMF detectors to document its strange occurrences. Many claim to have captured unexplained shadows, faint voices, or other anomalies on film, further fueling the legend. While skeptics argue that these experiences can often be attributed to natural causes or heightened imagination, the consistency of reports over the decades gives weight to the belief that St. Joseph's Cemetery is indeed a site of supernatural activity. Despite its haunted reputation, St. Joseph's Cemetery remains a place of reverence and history. During daylight hours, Visitors often appreciate the cemetery's quiet beauty, the orderly rows of tombstones, and the sense of connection to generations past. Yet as darkness falls, the atmosphere changes dramatically. Shadows grow longer, the air turns colder, and the legend of Father Matthias takes on a palpable presence. It is in this liminal space between day and night, life and death, that the stories come alive, allowing visitors to experience the cemetery in ways that are both fascinating and chilling. Those who venture into St. Joseph's Cemetery after dark often leave with a lingering sense of awe and unease. The combination of historical gravestones, the cemetery's quiet paths, and the supernatural experiences creates a setting where the past feels alive. The gentle whispers, shadowy figures, and sudden cold spots all serve as reminders that some spirits do not rest easily, and that the boundaries between the living and the dead are sometimes blurred. In the end, St. Joseph's Cemetery is more than just a resting place for the dead. It is a site where history, legend, and the supernatural converge. The restless spirit of Father Matthias continues to wander the grounds, a silent guardian, or perhaps a lost soul, seeking closure. For those willing to explore its paths after dark, the cemetery offers an unforgettable encounter, a chilling glimpse into the unknown, and a reminder that some stories are never truly buried. In St. Joseph's Cemetery, the past endures, and the presence of the unexplained lingers, inviting the brave and curious alike to witness its haunting legacy. The Pine Hill Cemetery, a quiet resting place tucked away in the small town of Pine Hill, New Jersey, looks serene at first glance. Its neat rows of headstones sit among towering trees that sway gently with the breeze. Birds occasionally chirp overhead, and the crunch of gravel underfoot seems to be the only sound breaking the silence. But despite its outward tranquility, this cemetery holds a reputation for being one of the most unsettling and mysterious places in the region. For decades, locals have whispered about the strange occurrences that happen here, unseen presences, eerie sounds, and shadowy figures that move between the trees when the sun goes down. The legend surrounding Pine Hill Cemetery begins with its history. Long before the town was established, this land was believed to be sacred ground for Native American tribes. Oral traditions suggest that the area served as an ancient burial site, a place where rituals honoring the dead were once performed. When European settlers arrived, the land was eventually converted into a Christian cemetery, erasing its original purpose, or so they thought. Many believe that disturbing the ancient graves sparked the unrest that plagues the grounds today. Visitors who enter Pine Hill Cemetery often describe an overwhelming sense of heaviness, as if the air itself carries the weight of centuries of grief. Even during the day, the cemetery feels different, quiet, in a way that is unnatural, almost suffocating. People report feeling as though they are being watched, their every movement followed by invisible eyes. It's a sensation that grows stronger the deeper one ventures into the cemetery, especially near the oldest section where the weathered stones lean precariously, their inscriptions faded by time. As night falls, Pine Hill Cemetery transforms into something entirely different. The darkness seems to swallow the paths, and the shadows between the trees become deeper, more menacing. Many locals warn against visiting after sunset, claiming that the spirits of those buried here do not rest easily. Those who have ignored these warnings often share chilling accounts of what they've experienced. One of the most common reports involves shadowy figures moving between the trees. At first, they appear as fleeting shapes in the corner of the eye, dark forms, slipping silently from one tree to the next. But when people look directly at them, the figures vanish, leaving nothing but empty space. Some have described seeing multiple shapes at once, moving with an eerie precision, as if circling the intruder who dared to enter their domain. Other visitors have reported hearing strange sounds that have no logical explanation. Low murmurs, like whispered conversations carried by the wind, echo through the trees. Some claim to hear faint chanting, rhythmic and haunting, as if an ancient ritual is still taking place somewhere beyond sight. Footsteps crunch on gravel paths when no one else is there, and twigs snap in the woods without any sign of an animal. On rare occasions, people have described hearing the distant sound of a drum, a slow, steady beat that grows louder before suddenly stopping altogether. There are also stories of sudden drops in temperature that defy reason. People walking through the cemetery have felt an icy chill sweep past them, even on warm summer nights. These cold spots often appear near clusters of old graves or at the base of large trees, as though something unseen lingers there. Some claim they've felt a hand brush against their arm or the back of their neck, only to turn and find no one behind them. Perhaps the most terrifying encounters are those involving direct apparitions. Witnesses have described seeing full-bodied figures in the cemetery, men and women dressed in clothing from different eras, standing silently among the headstones. One recurring sighting is that of a tall figure wearing a dark cloak, its face obscured by a hood. It is often seen near the far end of the cemetery, where the oldest and most forgotten graves lie, hidden beneath thick patches of moss. When approached, the figure either vanishes into thin air or glides away, disappearing into the tree line without a sound. Some believe the restless spirits are tied to the land's ancient past, while others think the disturbances stem from the desecration of graves over the years. There are rumors that in the early 1900s, workers expanding the cemetery unearthed bones that were not European, but Native American. Instead of reinterring them properly, the remains were discarded without ceremony. If the stories are true, it would explain why so many people feel that the ground itself radiates anger and sorrow. Paranormal investigators have flocked to Pine Hill Cemetery, hoping to capture evidence of the activity. Many claim success, presenting photographs of strange mists forming in clear air or unexplained orbs of light floating between the trees. Audio recordings have revealed chilling whispers and guttural sounds that seem to speak in a language no one recognizes. Even skeptics have left the cemetery unsettled, admitting that there is something about the place that logic cannot easily explain. Today, Pine Hill Cemetery remains an active burial ground, and visitors still come to pay respects to loved ones. But among the mourners are those who come seeking the unknown, hoping for a glimpse of the paranormal. Some leave with nothing more than goosebumps and a vague sense of unease. Others leave with stories they will never forget, stories of being watched, followed, and touched by something that should not exist. For those who believe in spirits, Pine Hill Cemetery serves as a reminder that the past is never truly gone. The souls of those who came before may still linger, tethered to the earth by anger, sorrow, or unfinished business. And for anyone who walks its shadowed paths after dark, one truth becomes painfully clear. Pine Hill Cemetery is not a place for the faint of heart. It is a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin, where unseen eyes watch from the darkness, and where the whispers of the past echo endlessly among the trees. Griggstown Cemetery, a small and unassuming burial ground nestled near the edge of the Sourland Mountains, is a place that looks ordinary during the day. Its weathered headstones lean at odd angles, and the surrounding trees cast long, swaying shadows on the grassy ground. Birds occasionally perch on the aging stones, their songs adding a deceptively peaceful tone to the landscape. But once the sun sets and darkness blankets the area, Griggstown Cemetery reveals a very different side steeped in mystery, fear, and whispered legends that locals rarely speak about aloud. The cemetery dates back to the early 18th century, making it one of the oldest burial sites in the region. Its age alone gives it a sense of eerie history, but the legends tied to this place have turned it into one of the most notorious haunted cemeteries in New Jersey. The land itself has seen countless generations pass, but according to those who have dared to enter after dusk, not all of its inhabitants are resting in peace. Many stories trace the cemetery's paranormal activity back to the Revolutionary War. The Sourland Mountains were known for being a hideout for soldiers and spies during the war, and there are tales that several unmarked graves in the cemetery belong to men who died under violent or mysterious circumstances. Some say that these soldiers were buried in haste, without proper rites, and their spirits linger because they never received the peace they deserved. Visitors who have walked through Griggstown Cemetery often report an immediate and overwhelming sense of unease. Even in daylight, the atmosphere feels heavy, as though the ground itself holds onto centuries of grief. The silence there is unnatural. It's not just quiet, it's the kind of silence that presses against your ears, amplifying every tiny sound you make. The crunch of gravel beneath your shoes, the rustle of a breeze in the trees. Each noise seems sharper, louder, as though something is listening. The most common reports from those who dared to explore the cemetery involve the sound of footsteps. People walking the gravel paths late at night claim they hear someone trailing behind them. The steps match their own pace, sometimes speeding up or slowing down, but when they turn to look, no one is there. On a few occasions, visitors have said they saw faint depressions forming on the gravel, as though an invisible presence were walking right beside them. Then there is the sound of rustling leaves. At first it seems like nothing more than the wind moving through the trees, but many insist it's different, quicker, more deliberate, as though something is darting between the graves, watching. Some have even reported hearing whispers carried on the breeze, soft, unintelligible voices that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The whispers grow louder when people linger too long near the oldest graves, as if warning them to leave. While these sounds alone are enough to terrify most, some encounters go far beyond mere noises. Several visitors have reported seeing ghostly figures among the headstones. One recurring sighting is of a man dressed in tattered clothing from the 18th century, his features pale and sunken, his eyes hollow and dark. Witnesses say he walks slowly between the graves, clutching what appears to be an old musket. When approached, the figure either vanishes into thin air or melts into the shadows cast by the trees. Another commonly reported apparition is that of a woman in a long, dark gown. She is often seen near a row of unmarked graves in the oldest section of the cemetery. According to local lore, she was a grieving mother who lost her children to disease in the early 1800s. Overcome with sorrow, she is said to have visited their graves every night until her own death. Now, her spirit continues the ritual, appearing on moonlit nights, kneeling at the graves before fading away like mist. Temperature fluctuations are another phenomenon frequently reported at Griggstown Cemetery. People describe sudden drops in temperature so extreme that their breath becomes visible, even on warm summer nights. These cold spots often appear near specific graves, particularly those marked only by simple stones with no names. Paranormal investigators who have visited the site have captured chilling evidence photos of strange mists curling around headstones, orbs of light hovering in the darkness, and audio recordings of voices saying words like leave or stay. But perhaps the most terrifying stories come from those who linger too long. There are accounts of people feeling an icy hand brush against their arm or shoulder, only to spin around and find nothing. Others claim to have felt something tugging at their clothes, as if trying to pull them deeper into the graveyard. One local legend tells of a man who stayed past midnight and was later found wandering the nearby woods in a daze, unable to explain how he got there. He could only recall hearing voices calling his name and feeling an overwhelming urge to follow them. What makes Griggstown Cemetery so unsettling is the sense that it is alive, not in the way a forest or a field is alive, but in a way that suggests awareness. The cemetery seems to watch, to listen, to respond. Visitors often leave with a lingering feeling that something has followed them home. A presence that stays just out of sight, whispering in the quiet moments of the night. Cedar Hill Cemetery, tucked away in the quiet town of Cedar Brook, seems ordinary at first glance. Its weathered gravestones stand among towering cedar trees, casting long, jagged shadows across the uneven ground. Birds flit through the branches during the day, and the breeze carries the faint scent of pine. It looks serene, peaceful, but those who have ventured past its gates know that the calm is nothing but an illusion. Beneath the stillness lies something darker, something that makes this cemetery one of the most feared places in the region. The cemetery dates back to the mid-1800s, and its history is marked by tragedy. Many of the graves belong to families who succumbed to outbreaks of disease, violent accidents, and mysterious disappearances. Among the oldest stones, names have faded, leaving only time-worn slabs leaning at awkward angles. Over the years, countless rumors have surrounded Cedar Hill, and the most chilling of them all is the story of a vengeful spirit, a soul so consumed by rage and sorrow that it never found peace. The legend tells of a man named Elias Harrow, a wealthy landowner who lived in Cedar Brook in the late 19th century. Elias was known as a cruel man, a figure who inspired fear among locals for his ruthless business dealings and violent temper. He was said to have driven struggling farmers off their land and even accused innocent men of crimes to protect his fortune. But his downfall came in the form of betrayal. One winter night, Elias was found dead on the steps of his grand estate, his body twisted and broken, as though he had fallen from a great height. The official cause was ruled an accident, but whispers of foul play spread quickly. Some believed his business rivals had taken revenge. Others said it was the farmers whose lives he ruined. But the strangest theory was the one that endured. Elias's death was no accident. It was punishment, dealt by the spirits of those he wronged. After his death, Elias was buried in Cedar Hill Cemetery in a lavish marble tomb, the largest in the graveyard. For years after, strange occurrences plagued the cemetery, unexplained noises, sudden gusts of icy wind, and the feeling of being watched. People began to report seeing a shadowy figure near Elias's tomb, pacing back and forth as if guarding something. At first, it seemed harmless, a distant silhouette that vanished when approached. But then the encounters grew violent. Visitors spoke of hearing heavy footsteps behind them, only to turn and find no one there. Some described feeling sharp tugs on their clothing or icy fingers brushing against their skin. Others reported whispers, soft, menacing murmurs that seemed to come from the ground itself. A few even claimed to hear their own names spoken in a voice that was not human. The most terrifying stories come from those who dared to get too close to the Harrow tomb. One local teenager, sneaking into the cemetery on a dare, claimed he saw the figure of a man standing in front of the tomb, his head bowed, his body rigid. When the teen called out, the figure slowly turned and revealed a face twisted with rage, eyes glowing a sickly green. The boy ran and never returned, but he swore that as he fled, he heard the sound of something chasing him, pounding footsteps that stopped only when he crossed the cemetery gates. Some paranormal investigators have suggested that Elias's spirit is not merely restless, but vengeful, perhaps because his wealth and power meant nothing in death, or because his soul is bound to the sins he committed in life. Others believe he guards something, a secret hidden with his remains, something he will never allow the living to find. The cemetery itself seems to echo this darkness. Many visitors describe an unnatural silence that hangs over Cedar Hill, especially at night. The usual sounds of the outdoors, crickets chirping, leaves rustling, fade away, replaced by an oppressive quiet that presses against your ears. Even the wind seems to die here, leaving the air thick and still. Some say the silence is not natural at all, but a sign that something unseen is listening, waiting. Those brave or foolish enough to visit after midnight often speak of strange lights flickering between the trees. At first glance, they look like lanterns or candles, swaying gently in the distance. But when approached, they vanish without a trace. Some claim these lights lead toward the Harrow tomb, as though beckoning visitors deeper into the darkness. Temperature drops are another common phenomenon. People have reported walking through the cemetery on a warm summer night, only to suddenly feel a wave of cold air so intense that their breath turns visible. The chill lingers near the tomb, and some say it seeps into your bones, numbing your limbs as though trying to hold you in place. Over the decades, Cedar Hill has earned a reputation as a place of bad luck. There are stories of car engines failing just outside the gates, of electronics dying without explanation, of visitors falling mysteriously ill after wandering too close to Elias's grave. Locals warn that if you visit the cemetery, you should never speak his name aloud and never, under any circumstances, approach the tomb after dark. Still, the legend persists, drawing thrill seekers and ghost hunters who hope to catch a glimpse of the vengeful spirit. Some leave with only eerie photos or strange recordings, disembodied voices, faint growls, or the sound of footsteps crunching in the gravel. Others leave with far more nightmares that last for weeks, the sensation of being watched long after they've gone home, and in rare cases, the chilling belief that something has followed them. Cedar Hill Cemetery remains a place shrouded in mystery, its shadows stretching long into the past. Whether the vengeful spirit of Elias Harrow truly roams the grounds, or it's merely a story passed down through generations, one thing is certain: those who step inside Cedar Hill do not leave unchanged. Some carry only a memory of fear, others carry something far worse, a presence that refuses to let go. Well, my brave friends, that brings us to the end of our chilling tour of the 25 most haunted cemeteries in New Jersey. From vengeful spirits to wandering souls, these sacred grounds are more than just resting places. They are portals to the past, where the dead still linger and stories continue to unfold. The next time you're in New Jersey, be sure to keep an eye out for those shadowy figures at the edges of the roads or the whispers in the wind. They may just be the spirits of those who never truly left. Thank you so much for joining us on this spintingling adventure. If you enjoyed tonight's tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. We've got more haunting stories waiting for you. Until next time, keep your lights low, your courage high, and always watch your back, because you never know who or what might be lurking in the dark. Sweet dreams, or perhaps nightmares.